Alright, welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. Once again, we are finding out some cool stuff about this not-so-ordinary kidnapping, apparently. There's more to it than meets the eye. So, how about we start with the dramatic thing that happened last time, which was that Mr. Sasayama, the cosplay detective, was stabbed. So let's identify if he's okay. Kano practically died from the car when it arrived on the scene in Maruya Macho. The place was teeming with officers and onlookers alike. Out of the way! Please! Move aside! Kano forced his way through the throng. Sasayama was lying in a massive pool of blood. Sasayama! Kano rushed to his partner's side. The knife was still embedded deep in Sasayama's belly. Its handle shuddered each time he drew a labored breath. Guess I messed up. Sasayama could only manage a raspy murmur. Please don't try to talk, Kano urged. Looks like I won't be celebrating the Mrs. birthday. Sasayama drew a small package from his pocket. It had been neatly wrapped and fitted with a pretty little ribbon. Here, give this to Mi-chan for me. Kano shook his head. No way. You can give it to yourself. You've never met Mi-chan, huh? She's real pretty. Probably surprised how pretty she... I know. You've told me all about her. Kano, please, give this to my wife for me. Mustering up the last of his strength, Sasayama pressed the gift into Kano's hand. Sasayama? Sasayama's hand dropped back down into the puddle of blood. The paramedic team finally arrived at the scene. As Sasayama was loaded into the ambulance, Kano felt a surge of rage whirling inside him. Clenching his fist so hard his nails dug into his palm, he marched over to the captive, Al-Karawan. You son of a bitch. He wound up for a punch to Al-Karawan's face, only to have his arm caught forcibly by the elbow. Spinning his head around, he found Stanley standing there. Let go of me, Stanley! But the American had a grip of steel, and Kano's arm wouldn't budge. They allow you to assault suspects here in Japan, do they? Kano bit his lip, and then lowered his shaking fist. No, of course not, he growled. Al-Karawan let a nasal chuckle as he watched the pair. With a cold glare, Stanley strolled over to him. He leaned in close to whisper something, and all at once the blood drained from Al-Karawan's face. Visibly shaken, Al-Karawan said something back to Stanley. Stanley gave a slight nod, then left the captive with the police escort. Kano went over to him. Hey, what was that all about? Apparently, Al-Karawan gave Hitomi some instructions. Told her to get into a blue minivan that was parked along Dogenzaka. So Stanley's hunch had been correct. But why had Al-Karawan confessed so quickly? How'd you get him to talk? You don't need to know that. Turning on his heel, Stanley went to report the news about the blue van to the task force. Kuze immediately directed the detectives nearest Dogenzaka to look into it, but they found no blue minivan in the area. The order then came down for all personnel to search for the vehicle. Kano thought back to another item in the Dick diary. Dick number 14. Use the dead as a stepping stone, but be sure to die a stepping stone yourself. Be sure to die a stepping stone yourself. What? Oh, if you die, give yourself a... Okay. In the abstract, Kano could appreciate the nobility of self-sacrifice, but when he thought of Sasayama's blood-stained figure, it wasn't so easy to keep his emotions in check. First time you've ever seen a fellow officer get hurt? Stanley had come back to him. We don't have time to relax. If you can't keep your anger in, then do something about it, here and now. Stanley pointed to his own jaw. Hit me, American style. Kano smiled wryly at the unexpected proposal. Should we punch him? No thanks, I'll be fine. I'm the one who deserves to get hit. Or just kind of throw a punch. I think that Kano couldn't help but feel guilty. Without a word, Kano threw a punch. Stanley soaked up the rage-fueled blow, his face a mask of calm. Kano felt all the more miserable in the face of such unflinching resolve. If I weren't such a bumbling clod, Sasayama would never have... Hey, don't blame yourself, Stanley said. You guys have been doing better than I expected. More sarcasm, huh? Stanley's mouth curled up sheepishly and he held his hands wide. Kuze's voice suddenly cut in over the wireless. We've located the blue minivan. It's in Jinan 1, Chon, on Koendori. Hitomi might be there, and maybe the kidnapper's ringleader will turn up too. On pure reflex, Kano broke into a run. Stanley followed close behind. They sped through the back streets, making their way toward Koendori. Kano was a pretty fast runner, and Stanley kept up with him without apparent difficulty. You in the army or something? No, the Marines. The Marines! United States Marine Corps. A rapid deployment force specializing in amphibious landing operations, an independent branch of the armed forces, along with the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The Marines' motto is Semper Fidelis, Latin for always faithful. It wasn't much further, one door. Kano, if we find that van, don't get too close, Stanley warned. These people will do anything to carry out their goals. Anything, huh? Yeah, you'd kind of seen it already, hadn't you? Kano could sense the truth of Stanley's words. He reminded himself that his life could depend on remembering them. He raised his eyes. They were coming up to Koendori. Suddenly, a boom as loud as cannon fire shook the area. Something's wrong, Kano thought. That's no ordinary city noise. A column of black smoke rose up from between two nearby buildings. Passers-by stopped and stared, gasping in alarm. Oh, wait, we have video? That's the first time. That's a first. Kano saw flames. This hadn't been an accident. Someone had set off an explosion. The Shibuya precinct wasn't too far from here. Kano recalled the attempted bioterrorism attack at Kasumigaseki. 2 years ago, the Tokyo Metropolitan Public Safety Commission obtained intel of an imminent bioterrorist attack in the city. Immediately afterward, an occupied minivan exploded outside the Metropolitan Police Department, and a device for dispersing a bacterial contagion was discovered at the subway platform at Kasumigaseki Station. Having determined that the city bureaucracy was the target, the Japanese government contacted the terrorist organization responsible in secret, making a deal to put an end to the threat. That incident began with a van exploding outside the Tokyo MPD station. Already, a large crowd of onlookers was gathering. Shouts rose up as they took in the scene. What's going on? What happened? The car is on fire. Kano called into HQ and quickly slipped around the back of the burning vehicle. It was a minivan. Peering at the flaming chassis, he could see that there was someone inside. Oh no. Could that be Hitomi? Once they had their hands on the antiviral, the criminals would have no further use for Hitomi Osaka. Already the body had been charred to ash. At this point, it was hardly recognizable as human anymore. Oh, keep out. What's up next? Let's see. So Kano's done. Let's jump to Achi and Hitomi. Let's see what they're actually doing. Kanan led them into a narrow back alley. The moment she stopped, Hitomi spoke up. The back alley. Members of SOS don't come by here very much. Word has it in this place, around 10 years ago, one man beat the crap out of 7 street toughs in the blink of an eye, all by himself. His name? Kiryu Kazuma. Over time, people have offered various theories that he was an assassin, that he was some foreign soldier, even that he might have been a ghost. And to this day, the urban legend lives on. Was my sister kidnapped? Before I answer that, there's something I need to tell you, Kanan said. Her tone was cold and sharp. I've come to Japan because I'm on a mission. I'm not at liberty to discuss all the details. Alright, Hitomi gave a slight nod. To answer your question, Maria was kidnapped by mistake. What? Hitomi gasped. Why? Because this kidnapper isn't after Maria. They're after you. Who's after me? The mastermind behind this whole thing, Kanan said. Her tone was matter of fact. Whoa, hold on, Achi interrupted. What do they want Hitomi for? That I cannot say. Well, then who is this person? I can't tell you that either. You see, their sex, nationality, age, appearance, just about everything about them is shrouded in mystery, so there's honestly not much I can tell you. Achi and Hitomi stood dumbfounded. What gives? Achi said. So you're saying all you know is that this person has some lame name like Mastermind? So, Danganronpa. Spike Chunsoft also made it. I don't know if the same exact team worked on this game as worked on the Danganronpa, but that was all about, there's actually a mastermind behind everything here. So it seems like there's a recurring theme. Mastermind, originally used solely to refer to someone of remarkable intellect. The term first took on its criminal connotations in the 19th century. I'm here, Kanan spat, because I'm looking for revenge. Revenge? Hitomi asked. What for? This person also killed my friend. A certain person. It's a very Japanese thing. Kanan's inscrutable eyes flashed with a threatening gleam. Earlier, you said it was your fault my sister got kidnapped? Hitomi said. Kanan cast her eyes down. 4 days ago, I managed to learn this criminal's plan. So I got in touch with Maria and told her that you were going to be attacked at that party. So that's why she told me not to go. Hitomi's voice trembled as she spoke. I gave Maria a small GPS tracker to give to you, but I guess you never got it? GPS stands for Global Positioning System, a network of man-made satellites and ground-based control stations for providing geolocation data. Alternatively, a system that makes use of said system. Or a device that makes use of said system. Modern cell phones and vehicle navigation systems use the GPS. I was about to say, like the iPhone, I think, would have been out at that point, but not everybody had one. Yep. Hitomi shook her head. I see. She must still have it then. Wait, so then my sister... The color drained from Hitomi's face as she understood. Yes, Kanan replied. Maria acted as a decoy and let herself get kidnapped in your stead. Hitomi swayed on her feet, shocked to the verge of fainting. I mean, did she, though? Did she? Was she intending to get kidnapped, or was she just telling her sister not to go? I mean, you gotta think about these things. Achi hurriedly reached out and caught her in his arms. That's quite a face, Achi. But wait, he said to Kanan as he held Hitomi up. I don't get that either. Why didn't neither of them go? Why didn't neither of them go? Then nobody would have been kidnapped, right? I mean, why'd her sister need to go and act as a decoy? Kanan let out a tiny sigh. If she hadn't gone to the party, the kidnappers would have just found some other opportunity to come after her. Ah, okay. Achi nodded. That sort of makes sense. I'm betting that Maria's plan was to use the GPS to lead me to these guys' hideout. She wanted to keep her sister safe, and also figured she could help me with my mission. It's the sort of scheme she'd think of. Then you can't use the GPS to locate Hitomi's sister? Achi asked. Kanan shook her head. The GPS hasn't been powered on since she was kidnapped. It's possible the kidnappers took it from her. Wait, what? So after all that, even you can't find Maria? Achi slumped his shoulders in disappointment. I didn't say that. What do you mean? I got some intel from those syndicate members we met earlier. Apparently, sometime this morning, they put Maria into a blue minivan, and since then, they've been moving her all around Shibuya. Achi and Hitomi exchanged glances at the mention of the blue minivan. Unfortunately, Kanan continued, those operatives didn't know what the current situation was exactly. So we're back to the blue van then. Achi hurriedly explained what they'd been through so far. He mentioned how they'd first seen the blue van where the kidnappers had told Hitomi to find it. He also described how first the man with the cane and then a host of others had come after them. He got a little sidetracked here and there, but Kanan quietly listened to the end. I see, she muttered. So then, what do you think? Achi asked. Seems like we messed up their schemes a little, huh? Whatever the case, the man with the cane concerns me, Kanan said. I doubt he's working with the others. I don't know what that means. Maybe that's it. Some guy who isn't involved butts in, and it throws off their whole plan. Kanan nodded in agreement. Because you and that man with the cane showed up, she said. They couldn't leave the minivan where it was. They took a sensible precaution. But then, if you think about it, isn't this an opportunity for us to turn the tables on Mr. Mastermind? Kanan flashed him a faint, speculative smile. I wonder about that. Oh, come on, Achi grumbled. You're such a buzzkill. Any well-made plan is a good, solid outline, which means that even after it has come to fruition, it's easy to trace things back to the planner. Is that how that works? By contrast, if you achieved your goals using accidental means, the outline becomes blurred. It makes it harder for anyone outside looking in to grasp what the actual plan is. Achi swallowed hard as he took in the gravity of the situation. Well, but I mean, like, if there's an accident, people are gonna for sure panic, plan or not. The corners of Kanan's lips curled up. Typically, I suppose, she said. But the people who are after Hitomi, not only have they put together a perfect plan, they've purposely left certain tiny holes in it. And so we can't even figure out who they are. The outline of the plan is always too blurry. Achi had no response to that. It was like he was hearing about some completely different world beyond the one he knew. What Kanan said was true. He'd been dealing with opponents that were on a level way above his own. In any event, since these people are after you, it would be best if you didn't wander around town anymore, Kanan told him. By now Hitomi had recovered. She stood up straight and shook her head. No, I'm gonna find that blue minivan. My sister is in danger because of me. I can't abandon her just to save myself. Well, I hope Kanan knows why they're after Hitomi. Because, like, actually the best thing that you could do is not be involved in this. But, you know, that's just me. Yeah, that's right. Achi patted Hitomi on the back. And if that's what you're going to do, then I don't care who we're up against. I'm with you in this until the end. Heck, it's too late for me to back out now. That ship has already failed. Hitomi giggled despite herself. It's already sailed, Achi. Yeah! Kanan let out another sigh. Alright, just make sure you're extra careful, she said. You can't count on getting bailed out of trouble like you have before. I understand, Hitomi said. Her eyes showed no sign of doubt or fear. Kanan gave her a slight nod, then quickly disappeared down the alleyway. Right then, Achi said. Want to get back to looking for that minivan? Then he stopped, remembering their previous efforts. If they just heedlessly wandered around town, they'd probably end up in the same trouble they'd encountered before. They'd be chased by the man with the cane, or by the kidnappers, and their search would be interrupted yet again. What should they do then? There had to be a better way. Achi happened to glance upward and caught sight of a surveillance camera installed on one of the streetlights. That's it! God, I can't believe I didn't think of it before. Hitomi peered at him, startled by his sudden shouting. We just need to use my old man's surveillance cameras, and this will be a breeze. Achi took Hitomi by the hand and started running. His destination, the security camera monitoring room in Dogen's eye. Achi didn't slow his pace until they were nearing their destination. Then he turned and looked back at Hitomi. He was about to ask if she was doing alright when someone close at hand called out to him. Hey, mind if I ask you something? Have you ever heard of SOS? Uh-oh. Achi stopped in his tracks as a stranger stepped in front of him. The guy looked too old to be picking a fight with SOS. Achi regarded him with suspicion. Yeah, why do you ask? Do you happen to be a member yourself? No, not anymore. The man's eyes flashed with a gleam of recognition. Did this guy know who he was? With a broad grin, the stranger took a step closer. Achi's heart sank. He couldn't afford to get caught up in some new hassle right now. Hitomi flashed him a worried look. Let's go. Achi and Hitomi dodged past the man and hurried onward. Even if the guy was harmless, they needed to be on their guard. There was no telling just how many thugs and assassins were looking for Hitomi. There's a brief little cross with Minorikawa there. Rather than head directly for the surveillance building, Achi had decided he better make sure the stranger wasn't up to something. Hitomi followed as he slipped quietly into a back alley. There was no indication that the man was following them. What was that guy's deal? Hitomi asked. No idea, but he sure seemed kind of fishy. Doesn't look like he's coming after us, though. They took a quick detour through another seedy back alley. Then, as they were starting to head toward their original destination, Achi felt a sudden, searing pain in his back. Clenching over his shoulder, he discovered that one of the foreign syndicate members had crept up and struck him from behind. Oh no, I've been stabbed. Hitomi screamed. Another man had suddenly appeared, grabbing her by the arms. Hitomi. Achi tried to reach out to her, but his arm was leaden. His body refused to obey his commands. As the attacker wrenched the knife from his back, Achi felt the blood gushing out of his wound. The two men started to drag Hitomi away. Damn it. He tried to pursue them, but his legs faltered and couldn't find their footing. He was losing blood so fast he was starting to fade from consciousness. So this is a bad end, I think. Achi could only watch impotently as Hitomi was dragged further and further away. So we need to make sure Minorikawa avoids them. Yes. Number 43, stabbed by a kidnapper. Achi got stabbed, caught in a surprise attack by one of the kidnappers. He could only watch helplessly as Hitomi was taken away. If that weird guy hadn't tried to talk to him, Achi would never have taken the risk of wandering through the alleys. But how can you keep that guy from wanting to interview Achi? I know exactly how. So let's go to Minorikawa's story then. Wait a second. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. Gah! Minorikawa stopped and let out a cry of frustration. Daisuke Endo had asked him for a favor after the interview was done. He promised to tell the Wandering Angels that the dry ice machine they'd purchased was defective. Episode 5. At last, the climax of the play drew near. There was a whole string of troubles, but the cast soldiered on. It looked like there were things to end all right. Then backstage, Bando noticed that the dry ice machine was acting strangely, even after it had been turned off. The machine continued to churn out more dry ice. The producer, Tsukuzawa, demanded that the defective device be returned immediately, and so Tezuka, Bando, and Amo loaded it into their vehicle and left the theater. Damn, that had completely slipped his mind. If he recalled correctly, the issue was that once the machine started making dry ice, it wouldn't stop. If he ran back to the theater now, he'd lose about 10 minutes. Minorikawa checked his wristwatch. The loan people would be coming by the editing office before too long. He needed to prove to them that next month's issue of 4-Star General Gossip was well underway, or else they'd refuse to wait any longer for repayment. And to do that, he needed to fill a minimum of 6 of the 12 remaining blank pages. He couldn't afford to waste even a single second. This was an awkward position to be in. He needed to keep his promise to Endo, but he also needed to spend his time wisely. Bah! Guess I don't have a choice. Let's go back to the theater. He agreed to take on responsibility, headed back to the theater. When he got there, he flagged down the first guy he saw to tell him about the dry ice machine. Hey, make sure you remember what I'm going to tell you, okay? The dry ice machine is broken. The man stared back at it blankly, but Minorikawa just forged ahead. got it. The dry ice machine is broken. It needs to go back to the electronics store. Make sure you let the folks in charge here know. His obligation meant he hurried back to the cafe to get back to work on his copy. Along the way, he caught sight of a young couple running. They seemed like an odd pair. The girl looked prim and proper, while the boy struck him as a bit thuggish. In fact, the boy's clothing was very much in the style worn by Shibuya street gangs. Maybe he'd know something about SOS. Trying to cross their paths, Minorikawa... Oh. Ah, so that messed up. Okay, hang on. Let's ignore that. Because I didn't actually know that was going to cause that. Oh, interesting. So... yeah. There was nothing he could do about having forgotten. He hurried on to the cafe. Sorry, Endo. Sorry, Ori. You're just going to have to let this one slide. I've got Toyama's life on the line here. He opened the door to the cafe with the practice of a regular. Look, the waitress only got that far before her face fell. Again? Hey, hurry up and get me a seat. She grinned wickedly. I'm terribly sorry, sir, but we're all full at the moment. He looked around. All the seats were indeed filled. As you can see, sir. Really now. The waitress' grin widened with triumph. Yes, sir. Fine, I'll just wait here. Let me get some power. Jamming his power cable into a nearby outlet, Minorikawa plunked himself right down on the floor and booted up his laptop. The waitress watched in dismay, then turned to stare vacantly up at the ceiling. Just do whatever you want, she muttered vaguely. You know, a person can only get away with being obnoxious for so long. Sooner or later, someone's likely to call the police. Minorikawa looked up from his work, startled to see the burning hammer salesman standing over him. You're Mr. Yanagishita. Thank you so much for stopping by earlier. Are you going to write your articles here? Yanagishita eyed Minorikawa's computer. Oh, that's the latest model, isn't it? Look, I got no time to talk right now. Minorikawa opened the file with his half-written copy. Oh, what's this? Chaos at Bogus Weight Loss Drink Sales Demo. Yanagishita read the copy aloud. The organizer, Junichi Yanagishita, didn't merely have a whiff of deceit about him, his breath also stunk. Sound good? Minorikawa asked. I wanted to make sure I gave an accurate impression. Oh, I love what you've done with it. This is a great copy. Fantastic. Yanagishita turned to look at him with a manic grin. Yeah, isn't it? In a flash, Yanagishita's face went from grinning to livid. Like hell it is! You think I'm just going to let you write something like that? Snatching up the computer, Yanagishita bolted out of the cafe. Hey, get back here! Minorikawa leapt to his feet and rushed off in pursuit. As he sprinted madly along, Yanagishita turned down a narrow alley. Minorikawa stayed close behind, desperate not to lose sight of him. His quarry began to weave his way through the back alleys of Shibuya. This guy clearly knew his way around town. By Miyashita Park, they dipped up onto a pedestrian bridge. Just where the heck was this idiot going? Halfway across the overpass, Yanagishita suddenly stopped. Confused, Minorikawa stopped as well. Give me that back, he called. Oh no, he's gonna hold it over. The next moment, Yanagishita flashed a mocking grin and dangled the laptop over the railing. Uh-oh. Minorikawa lunged toward him, but it was already too late. The laptop left Yanagishita's hand and went spinning down through the air. Then, as the two men struggled, Yanagishita himself toppled over the railing. But without hesitating, Minorikawa jumped down as well. Whoa! Ah! Minorikawa landed hard. As he struggled to regain his breath, he looked around and saw Yanagishita beside him. Incredibly, the laptop was safe in the charlatan's grasp. Apparently, he'd somehow managed to catch it in midair. Before Minorikawa could be too relieved, however, Yanagishita got to his feet and took off running again. Get back here, you little weasel! I don't think so! This Yanagishita guy was infuriated. That, and he was really fast. Minorikawa considered himself a decent runner, but he couldn't manage to gain on Yanagishita. If running away was a competitive sport, the guy would be a world-class superstar. he ran along, a peculiar thought occurred to him. Hold on a minute. If he hates my copy that much, shouldn't he have wanted my computer to break? Why'd he go out of his way to catch it like that? It made no sense at all. Hey! Minorukawa shouted between gasping breaths. What are you planning to do with my laptop? Yanagishita glanced back at him. Gonna sell it. Sorry about this. What? Minorukawa was taken aback. Consider it compensation for defamation of character. In the civil sense, the act of unlawfully damaging another person's character or reputation in the public eye. In the criminal sense, the act of disseminating damaging facts about an individual to an unspecified large number of people. Hey, that's a timely thing, isn't it? Come on, get real. It can't be defamation if the article hasn't run yet. Then consider it an advance on the compensation. This was so nonsensical it made Minorukawa's head hurt. But now at least he knew why Yanagishita had dived out of the computer. The thief continued to weave his way through the side streets. His speed didn't diminish in the slightest. Damn it, this guy has too much experience running away. Minorukawa's stamina began to fade, and finally he lost sight of his quarry. But that didn't mean he was ready to give up the search. There were articles on that computer that were right on the verge of completion. Whatever it took, he had to get it back. Yanagishita had said he was going to sell it. Where could he be headed then? Endo Electronics, I bet so. Probably he was headed to Endo Electronics. It was the only local place he could think of that might buy a second-hand computer. Damn, the guy had led him on a wild goose chase. Minorukawa started running toward Dogensaka. As he approached the scramble outside the station, he caught sight of a skinny figure disappearing into the throng along Center Guy. A suit with deep bluish stripes. There was only one man he knew who dressed like that. But why was he headed down Center Guy and not toward Dogensaka? Oh, now I remembered. There was a second-hand knick-knack shop near where the Burning Ammo demo had been held. He recalled seeing a poster out front that read, "We buy computers at top prices." Oh, I forgot about that. That had to be it. That's where Yanagishita was planning on selling his laptop. Changing directions, Minorukawa darted down Center Guy. There you are, Yanagishita. Minorukawa burst into the shop on Center Guy, an accusing finger pointing squarely at the thief. Listen, there's no way I'm buying a computer that doesn't have a power cable. Details. All you sell here is junk anyway. Yanagishita and shopkeeper had gotten into an argument. Minorukawa recognized the shopkeeper. It was the guy he'd run into on the roadside earlier. That computer belongs to me, Minorukawa shouted as he marched up to them. Give it back! Yanagishita clutched the laptop to his chest. Nuh-uh! I need the money! Knock it off. You're acting like a child. Minorukawa tried to slap him out of his tantrum, but Yanagishita ducked to avoid the blow. And then, bizarrely, Yanagishita froze. A fierce gleam came into his eyes. He broke into an incomprehensible stammer. That's it! Yanagishita snatched up a flyer that his gaze had fixed on. Iron stomach, huh? This right here is my little bluebird of happiness, he cried. You know what? You can have this. Yanagishita shoved the laptop into Minorukawa's arms. Ha ha ha! And welcome to you, idiot! I don't need no worthless computer! You're the idiot, Buster! Minorukawa smacked Yanagishita right across the face. Ouch! Hitting him felt good. He decided to do it again. Minorukawa shoved Yanagishita toward the shopkeeper. Hand this guy over to the police, he said. No, not the police, Yanagishita pleaded. Can it, you thief? You tried to rip me off, and you have no idea how much is riding on my work. You deserve 10,000 deaths. Honestly, you'd think that dying once would be sufficient. 10,000? Isn't that taking things just a little too far? I'm sorry already, I give up. Finally, the guy was ready to surrender. Minorukawa let his guard down for just a moment. Like hell I am! Switching gears in an instant, Yanagishita took off, running at full speed. This again. Get back here, you bastard! Minorukawa was already in pursuit. He stuck with Yanagishita as far as Koen-dori before losing track of him. The guy sure knew how to make a getaway. Breathing hard, Minorikawa stopped and took a look around this area. As he did hear a cell phone ringtone from somewhere nearby. It was the new single from the pop singer Aya Kamiki. Could that be Yanagishita's phone? Huh, could be. Somehow I stuck Minorikawa as the type of guy who would have a ringtone like that. No, Yanagishita's ringtone, I think, is his theme song. Seemed worth looking into, anyway. He had nothing else to go on. Minorikawa shifted his gaze around, trying to locate the source of the sound. What? It's the explosion! It's the explosion that Kano ran into. Suddenly, a massive, fiery blast knocked him from his feet. By the time he realized it was an explosion, his senses were already shattered. What just happened? He couldn't see, he couldn't hear, he couldn't move his body. Where am I? For a while, all he could feel was an intense pain, but soon even that faded away, and then there was only darkness. Oh, I got blown up. That was abrupt. Chasing Yanagishita led Minorikawa to the wrong places at exactly the wrong time. This wouldn't have happened if Yanagishita hadn't run when he did. If the MMA fighter Miku Morita comes into the knick-knack shop, she'll interrupt their argument, and things might turn out differently. Okay. So, I'm assuming that's Maria's story that we need to go to make that happen? So, let's do Maria's then. Wait, hold on. Is my name Hitomi Osawa? At my shout, the man with the cane hesitates, his finger on the trigger. What do you mean by that? The barrel of the gun is still aimed squarely at my head. I mean exactly what I said. Is my name Hitomi Osawa? I don't know who I am. You're trying to play games with me. I'm not playing games with anyone, I swear. I'm utterly desperate now. Getting killed is one thing, but who wants to die without even knowing who they are? Tell me, am I Hitomi Osawa or not? The man gives a good hard look. Damn it, I wonder. He continues to study me along the barrel of his gun. Tell me what you know. It's an order, not a request. But I know about what? Look, I have amnesia. Quickly summarize what's happened to me since I woke up in that storehouse. The man listens intently, never taking his eyes off me. Ah, I see. So that's what's going on then. Once I'm done with my story, the man with the cane sits down on an empty soda crate. Soon he believes me at any rate. Seems like he believes me at any rate. That's a relief, if nothing else. So then, am I Hitomi Osawa? No. Then who is Hitomi Osawa? Is she someone who looks like me? Shut your mouth, the man spits. Just be quiet. His expression is vacant. What am I gonna do? He mutters to himself. If I'm not Hitomi Osawa, does that mean you don't have any business with me? Seems so. In that case, can I go? The assassin doesn't answer. He lets his pistol hang limply in his hand, the muzzle dropping to point at the ground. It doesn't look like he wants to kill me anymore, but it doesn't look like he'll just let me go quietly either. I will remain motionless, waiting for an opportunity to run away. I might not make it in time, the man murmurs to himself under his breath. Not make it in time for what? I'm curious now, but this is hardly the time or place to try to find out more. I've learned for certain that I'm not Hitomi Osawa, which basically tells me nothing. I'm right back to square one and figure out who I am. The assassin has gone quiet, sitting on a pile of crates. He seems lost in thought. Still, I don't dare try to get away. All I can do is stand and wait and mull over my situation. Just who am I? I ask myself again and again. I am... No, I have no business with you. The man finally says. Go. Don't worry, I won't follow you. I wonder if I can believe him. Maybe he's just trying to get me off my guard so he can shoot me in the back. Do not go to the police, or go back home, he continues. Lay low by yourself somewhere for a while. How long is a while? Until around sundown. We should all be over by then. It'll all be over. I have no idea what it is, but I decide not to pry in case he decides to change his mind. Okay, I'm gonna run away now. Sure. I take a slow step backward. I'm starting to turn away when he speaks up again. Before you go, I need to tell you one more thing. What's that? When you get your memories back, I'm sure you're gonna hate me. And so I apologize in advance. Of course, I have no idea what he's talking about, but it makes me even more uneasy. I truly am sorry. I've got no response for that, so I just give the man one last look before I turn and run. Is it Totno? I think that guy's Totno. I decided to look for some place to hide out for a while, as the gunman suggested. But since I don't really know my left from my right in this town, that's easier said than done. Before I realize it, I've made my way back to the knick-knack shop where I bought the necklace. Maybe I could hide out in here. As I contemplate that possibility, I hear an all too familiar voice. Tama, 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 Tama! There's Mr. Yanagishida on the floor of the shop. He's been tied up with some rope. What happened, boss? Look, this is all just... I was framed. Nah, whatever's happened, I'm pretty sure it was all his fault. Just call it a hunch. He says I'm a thief. Well, I say he's the thief for selling stuff he finds around town. Hey! The sales clerk steps into view, scowling. Just what are you implying? What in the world is going on here? I haven't the foggiest. Tama, help me! Please! Yanagishida kicks and squirms like a hyperactive child. Do you know this man? The sales clerk asks. No, well, I mean, sorta. He's a real pain. He's been making a scene like this for as long as he's been here. I find it hard to imagine a worse way to interfere with someone's business. I hate to ask, the clerk continues, could you take him to the police for me? The police? Yeah. Oh, well, the police... The gunmen did specifically warn me not to go to them. I feel no loyalty to that killer, but I am reluctant to antagonize him. And for reasons I can't explain, I have a strong sense that going to the police right now is a bad move. But Mr. Yanagishida isn't privy to my thoughts, and he looks up at me with a hopeful gleam in his eye. Yeah, that'll work. Tama can take me to the police, and then we can put this all behind us. All's well that ends well, right? Well, sure. Feeling like I have no choice, I leave the shop with him. Huh. So something... It's not right here. Okay, Mr. Yanagishida says excitedly as soon as we're out of earshot. Let's go find Chiri. Huh? Are we going to the police? What? No, we're not really gonna go. Oh man, I am so glad you showed up, Tama. Now come on, let's go find Chiri. From the big grin on his face, I have an inkling of what's coming next. You've thought of another quick scheme, haven't you? Goodness, Tama, you can see right through me. It's not that difficult. It's practically written all over your face, boss. But Mr. Yanagishida isn't really listening. He's too full of enthusiasm. This time I've got a line on 10 million yen. So come on, let's go make ourselves stinking rich. He punctuates his grand announcement by pointing fervently at some non-existent listener. Hey, it's us. Several weeks later... Iron Stomach, a celebration of truly astonishing appetites. When the mighty stomach triumphs over the endless cavalcade of icebergs, the hero shall be crowned. We stand a cheery on the winner's podium. The cheers and applause are deafening when the master of ceremonies makes the announcement. Cheery is the champion. She laughs with delight as she holds up the trophy that signifies her 10 million yen win. And me? I got runner-up. I wasn't too into the idea at first, but after giving it a shot, I found that professional gluttony kind of grows on you. Even I was surprised at how much I could eat. And I had to admit it felt kind of good. My memory still hasn't come back, but that doesn't matter anymore. I found myself a new purpose. To steal Chiri's spot on the throne. That right there is now my greatest goal in life. I like how all of her bad endings are just like, here's this ridiculous thing that happens to you. The Throne of Gluttony. Tama never got her memories back. She ended up starting a new life on the competitive eating circuit, which may not be a horrible fate, but wouldn't it be better if she recovered her old life as Maria? When she was cornered in the alley by the man with the cane, there's someone who could have turned up and helped her out, Yanagishida, but he can't do that if he ends up getting tied up at the knick-knack shop. So... I don't know, like, there wasn't really a choice here, right? Not really, I don't think. Yeah, that's not gonna... That'll free up Achi, actually, I think, right? Yes, it does. So, we have Osawa. We might as well do him. Yeah, let's do his story for a little bit. I've never truly trusted anyone, not on a fundamental level. Human beings are a type of organism that I can't get a true handle on through mere surface interactions. And the very fact that I have never trusted anyone else means that inevitably, no one else has ever trusted me. In the end, maybe the root of all my problems could be traced back to my heart. As he waited for Minorukawa to contact him, Osawa thought about his current crisis. Assuming Tanaka was behind the kidnapping, then he must have accomplices. And those criminals had mistakenly abducted Maria in their attempt to get at the antiviral drug that was in Hitomi's blood. Maria and Hitomi were fraternal twins, but they looked similar enough to be mistaken for identical twins. It's almost like they were played by the same actress. Still, Tanaka would never confuse the two. The mix-up must have been made by some criminal who didn't know Maria or Hitomi personally. Insisting that Hitomi bring the ransom to the train station was obviously their solution. It had set her up for a second abduction. But piecing together this much of the kidnapper's plan only raised a different question. Why had Tanaka shown him those emails from Hitomi? Wouldn't the criminals want to keep information like that hidden? The more Osawa thought about things, the less they made sense. Just who are my true allies, and who are my foes? Mr. Osawa, a delivery has arrived for you. Oh, sorry. Mr. Osawa, a delivery has arrived for you. It was Kajiwara at the sturdy door. Come in. Kajiwara stepped into the room and handed Osawa a letter-sized envelope. Osawa checked the label. Kame, the official Ayakamiki fan club membership application exposed. It requires a 1,000 yen initiation fee and yearly dues of 3,000 yen. Membership grants several perks, including the opportunity to reserve concert tickets in advance of the general public. Osawa is fond of the members-only website content, which includes Aya Kamiki's blog and exclusive videos. Right. He had requested the application the day he'd gotten back from overseas. Would you mind opening that? Kajiwara asked apologetically. What for? I'd just like to check the contents of any packages you received today, sir. It's possible the kidnapper may try to contact you by mail. Osawa opened the envelope. Inside he found the expected application along with several postcards featuring pictures of the singer. Kajiwara peered pointedly at the postcard images. You must really like her, the detective said. And what sort of music do you listen to then? Osawa asked, staring at one of the postcards. It was a striking photo that showed off Kamiki's expressive eyes. Let me think. Mostly classical, I suppose. Osawa raised a quizzical eyebrow. You know, Kajiwara continued, like Mozart and Chopin and the like? Mozart is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1756 to 1791. An Austrian-born music prodigy and classic composer. Famous works include The Marriage of Figaro, The Magic Flute, and Symphony No. 41, known as the Jupiter Symphony. Chopin, Frédéric François Chopin, 1810 to 1849, composer and pianist of the early Romantic period, famed as a national musician of Poland. Left behind numerous solo piano works. Famous works include the Nocturne, Opus 9, No. 2, and his Piano Sonata No. 2. I know. He hummed a few bars. Can't say I've ever heard of them. Are you serious? Kajiwara looked shocked. I'm familiar with the names, of course. I just never had much of an interest in music. Oh, that's such a shame. Would you care to listen to a piece now? Yeah, I suppose I might as well. Now that he brought it up, Osawa was curious to know what sort of music Kajiwara enjoyed. The detective pulled a digital music player out of his pocket. Oh man, you remember those? Like iPods? Yeah. I had a, not an iPod, but a Creative Labs media player that I used pretty extensively in college. It was great. Here you go. Osawa slipped the attached earbuds into his ears. Did I miss something? I heard a flow of quiet strings that was soon joined by bold, dramatic horns. As the piece continued, it grew more profound and complex, and Osawa could feel his spirit calming. He took a deep breath and expelled it through his nostrils. It felt as if the toxic gloom that had filled him was departing with the air. Before he knew it, nearly 10 minutes had passed. What do you think? It's quite nice. The theme of this piece is, Kajiwara paused for a moment and thought, well, it's about how erudition can be boorishness. Erudition. Accumulated knowledge. The term often connotes an advanced and or esoteric understanding. Displaying in moderate amount can impress others, but pompously flaunting it is bound to put them off. Thank you. If I hadn't met you, I'd never have discovered this piece. He spoke the words unthinkingly with unaccustomed frankness. Was this the power of music, then? I'm very happy to hear that, sir. Osawa gazed at one of the postcards as he let himself be drawn back into the music. Aya was scooping up handfuls of mystical blue sand. The grains dripped down from her fingertips. I feel like I could be in this photo here, Osawa muttered. Like I've lived my life letting so many things slip through my fingers. Kajiwara thought for a moment before responding. I think anyone who's worked hard to accomplish something and focused for a long time on that one thing is susceptible to those kinds of feelings. Accomplishing something means getting results. That's not where my problem is. Osawa removed the headphones and gave back the music player. You told me not to hide things from you, right? Kajiwara nodded silently. Then allow me to speak frankly. Leaning back heavily in his chair, Osawa took another deep, slow breath. I'm anxious. So anxious that it's almost crushing me. Given the circumstances, sir, that's completely under... No! Osawa spoke up before Kajiwara could finish. It's not that. It's not that at all. He shook his head vigorously. If the worst should happen to my daughter, how am I going to feel, I wonder? I'm not a man with a wide range of emotions. My heart is always cold somehow. And the truth is, I've always wanted it to be that way. Which is why, if I do lose my daughter, my heart might remain unmoved. I may not even be able to feel a father's sorrow. That's what I'm anxious about. He felt his emotions twist inside him in a way that was utterly confusing. For perhaps the first time in his life, he realized how fickle a thing the human heart could be. It's all right, sir. Kajiwara flashed him a carefree smile. What's all right? People who really have cold hearts don't worry about that sort of thing. The detective held out his music player again. Here, I'd like you to have this. Please, give it another listen if you like. I think it might help you calm your nerves. Osawa took the offered device. He had dared to open up to Kajiwara just a little, and to his own surprise, he felt grateful for it. And how about one of these as well? The detective produced a banana from his pocket. A fine fix. You sure? Oh, alright. I guess I'll take it. Osawa spoke irritably, and his expression softened a little. You know, you've been getting on my nerves all day. Really? And here I thought I'd been doing what I could to soothe your spirits, Mr. Osawa. It's actually been a real long time since I've yelled at anyone quite so much. As the words left his lips, Osawa found himself thinking back to one particular rainy day. Maria had been in 5th grade at the time. Osawa was standing in his daughter's room. In his hands, he held the letter she had left behind. He happened to glance out the window and saw Maria walking along soaked from head to toe. In an instant, Osawa was consumed with rage. had left a note. It read, "Dad, you only pay attention to Hitomi. You too busy with work to play with me, so I'm running away from home." Struck by an impulse he didn't quite understand, he ran from the room and heading for the front door. Maria had just gotten back inside. Osawa met her silently in the entryway. Wet strands of hair clung to the girl's forehead as she looked up at her father with a bitter glare. "You don't care what happens to me, do you?" Impulsively, he slapped her face. Maria's cheek turned red and tears welled up in her eyes. Osawa's anger transformed abruptly into guilt. He gazed down at the palm of his hand and saw a tiny spot of blood. He was shocked by the recognition of what he'd just done. And then he was afraid. Afraid that his daughter could bring such raw emotion out of him and make him do something so thoughtless. Yeah, that's not great, Osawa. Not great. "Is something wrong, Mr. Osawa?" Kajiwara was leaning in, looking concerned. Osawa came back into the moment with a start and realized he had buried his face in his hands. "No," he muttered, looking up. "Just getting angry, yelling at people. I'm not good with that sort of thing. I don't like it." He picked up the music player and fidgeted with the earbuds as he spoke. "Well, getting angry and yelling at people, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's just human." "It's human? To do those kinds of things?" I often said that he was cold and mechanical. Her sarcasm only underlined the fact that he'd always lived with, that he didn't know how to conduct himself like a human being. "If you get angry, you show it," Kajiwara said. "If you get sad, you show it. It's human nature to let other people know how we're feeling, after all. But what if doing that hurts the other person?" "That's when you apologize, sir." Ah. It occurred to Osawa that he'd never tried to tell anyone how he felt before. He'd never felt the need to. And yet, right now, he suddenly felt that if his daughters were to appear before him, he might blurt out everything he'd ever left unsaid. It was a terrifying thought. "Darling?" I opened the door and stepped into the room. "The detectives are asking for you. It seems there's been a development." "We'll be right there." Osawa and Kajiwara hurried out of the room. Keep out. Oh, okay. I guess we gotta continue Achi's story then. Alright, because Kano is... Oh, something changed with Kano's story? Or is that a keep out? I don't know. But let's do Achi's story. Alright. Looking ahead, Achi saw that they were bearing down a young grade school girl, her head hung in dismay. Achi hurriedly caught the girl up in his arms. The maneuver kept her out of harm's way, but the momentum swung her high into the air. She dropped a sheet of paper she was carrying. As luck would have it, the papers fell amidst the trash scattered alongside the road. "Whoops! Sorry!" Achi stopped to gather up the sheets of paper, noting that each was adorned with some sort of writing. Here, looks like they got kind of messed up, though. Pages had landed in some kind of spilled liquid. Most of them had gotten stained. "It's alright," the girl said gloomily. "You should just throw them away. It's not like I could sell them now anyway." "You're gonna sell them?" Hitomi asked. "We're sorry. Do you think you'd be able to redo them?" "Achi, is there a stationery store around here?" "Yeah, up at the top of Dogensaka," Achi said. Here." He took a 5,000 yen note from his wallet and offered it to the girl. "To buy new paper. I know I can't replace the stuff you wrote, but..." The girl eyed the money doubtfully. "But... it's fine. Go ahead, take it." "Thank you very much." The little girl spoke with surprising formality as she turned and headed up Dogensaka. Achi gathered up the trash and tossed it into a garbage bin before he and Hitomi continued on their way. Achi led Hitomi to an old multi-tenant building. He hurried inside and headed up the stairs. Wait, what? Behind the receptionist's window on the second floor sat the custodian, sleeping on the job. Yukinori Tajima. His main job is overseeing the monitoring room for the local surveillance cameras. But on the side, he also works as a novelist and game scenario writer. He often sleeps on the job during his free time, but sometimes while he's asleep, he gets his writing done. Just recently, a certain game was released, set in Shibuya, but since he wrote the scenario and emailed it to the game company while he was asleep, he didn't know about it until just the other day. Hey, wake up, man. Achi gave the window a tap and the man woke with a start. Huh? Achichi? Don't scare me like that. It's one chi too many. And wow, you sure seem to have a lot of free time on your hands. You're kidding. Okay. Yeah, no one's been by to check today, but that's not so bad, right? I mean, I guess it is the surveillance room, but still. The man let out a big yawn. My dad asked me to come down here and check on the security monitors, actually, Achi said. Sorry to bother you when you're busy, Hitomi added with a polite bow. Huh? Who are you? You with Achichi? I'm Hitomi Ozawa. It's nice to meet you. Oh ho ho, wait, you Achichi's girlfriend? Again, too many cheese there, and that's none of your business. Just let me have the key. Hoping his blush wasn't too obvious, Achi mimed unlocking the door. You won't answer a simple question? You expect me to hand over the key? Yes, I'm his girlfriend, Hitomi said. We just started dating, so I'm sure I'll be seeing more of you, sir. She flashed a winning smile. Oh, well, what a surprise. Never thought Achichi could land a fine lady like yourself. The surprised custodian held out the key. Good for you, Achichi. Still one chi too many there. But yeah, dating. Achi gazed into Hitomi's face, even more surprised than the custodian. The key dangled, swaying to and fro like a pendulum between Achi and the man behind the counter. Achi, Hitomi said, nudging him in the side with her elbow. Come on. Oh, right. Snapping out of it, Achi took the key and headed up to the next floor. I'm sorry, Hitomi said as they entered the monitoring room, for just saying we were dating like that. I mean, it was a pretty clumsy lie. Oh, no, it was just kind of sudden is all. I was just a bit jittery, I guess. Achi felt his cheeks color again. I mean, I figured I had to say something or he wasn't going to cooperate, Hitomi said. She looked a little embarrassed herself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make things weird. No, Achi said. No, it wasn't weird at all. Actually, it was kind of... He stopped himself there. Now it wasn't the time for that sort of conversation. They needed to find that blue minivan. The surveillance camera monitoring room was really just a big office with a single computer. Achi knew it well. So this is the monitoring system, he explained. He switched on the computer. You can see all of downtown Shibuya from this one computer. Hitomi gazed impatiently at the monitor, even though it wasn't showing anything yet. A look of sheer determination on her face held Achi enthralled. You talk about how attractive your sister is, Achi murmured. But as far as I'm concerned, right now you're the lovely one, Hitomi. Hitomi looked at him uncertain. I mean, look at the lengths you're going to and the risks you're taking to save your sister, Achi said. I can't bear the thought that something might happen to her. And the last time we were together I said such horrible things. Plenty of people do bad things without even realizing they're bad. Never mind trying to fix it. I'm just doing what I think is right. Yeah, but these days people don't do the right thing. Heck, if they did, Shibuya wouldn't be covered in trash like it is. Me, I appreciate it when someone really cares about all the things that are important. Doing the right thing is a matter of course. That's very attractive. Achi blushed as he said it, and Hitomi shyly looked away. I think the system is ready. Turning to the computer, Achi hastily changed the subject. This thing's so simple, even I know how to use it. Clicking on the mouse, he brought up a row of 4 windows on the monitor. Each window showed a different view of the Shibuya cityscape. The image quality is not great, but that's because it's being updated on a 2-second delay, I guess. Achi tapped on the keyboard, bringing up shots of different locations. He clicked on one of them in order to enlarge the image. You really can find that minivan with this. Hitomi was practically glued to the screen. My dad's the one who designed this security system. Your dad must be pretty amazing. Well, he graduated top of his class at Tokyo Denko University. Tokyo Denko University, a prestigious national university founded over a century ago. Applicants who place highly on the entrance exam can receive a full scholarship. Achi's father was one such attendee. The school has supported extensive research into artificial intelligence and recently announced an AI program known as Body. While the computer is asleep, different personalities emerge, which have an impact on various normal thought processes, forming a network of more human-like thought patterns as a result. He always said he could have had a career in computer engineering, but he took over the electronics shop so that he could marry my mother instead. That's such a sweet story. Did they run the store together then? Achi shook his head. No, my mother died when I was 4. Oh, I'm sorry. You told me it sounded even sadder than Achi. Well, anyway, never mind that. Here, look. The seedy-looking weirdo they went into a Gigo was on the screen. Huh? That guy again? Said weirdo was running all out, a laptop computer under one arm. He was being chased by a man in a long coat. That guy sure gets chased around a lot, huh? Achi said. When the weirdo slipped out of view, Achi switched to another camera. The new view showed the weirdo running again. By hopping from camera to camera, they could track him wherever he went. As long as we have these cameras, Achi said, this guy has nowhere to run. Nowhere to run, huh? The moment he said those words, they struck an odd chord in his mind. He remembered their repeated run-ins with the man with the cane, how the assassin had seemed always to know where to find them. Achi, please, Hitomi urged. Stop messing around and let's look for the minivan. Alright, my bad. Alright, my bad. Achi switched over to a different camera. He ended up switching views, scanning the streets of Shibuya, but there was no sign of a blue minivan anywhere. Still, they remained glued to the monitor. Oh, that's me. Hitomi took out her cell phone. It's an email from Mr. Tanaka. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was about time for my mood to take a dip, Achi thought. What? Hitomi blurted. She looked up from her phone. Achi! Mr. Tanaka found the minivan. He what? What does he say? Read it to me. Okay. I ran after it, but wound up losing sight of it. It was heading toward Jinan. That's what he says. What about your sister? Oh, that might be a keep out? Yeah. Was she inside? He doesn't say. Achi switched over to an area of surveillance cameras near Jinan. A few seconds the transition took felt agonizingly slow. Finally, 4 new images popped up. Achi quickly enlarged one of them. Ah! Hitomi let out a tiny gasp. There it is. There on the monitor was the blue minivan. There was no doubt about it. Achi and Hitomi rushed from the building, sped towards Jinan in an all-out run. Run, Achi. Run, Hitomi. Run, other guy who's looking for Miku. Who's that? Minorikawa? Oh. Achi felt as if they'd been running a marathon at the finish line and finally come back into view. They hooked a left at the station and darted past the Cebu department store. Aha! Achi pointed as he came to a stop. The blue minivan was still there, parked by the curb along the slight hilly incline. Leaving Achi behind, Hitomi started rushing up the hill. Alarm bells started going off in Achi's mind. If someone from the kidnapping crew was in that van, it was dangerous to approach carelessly. Hitomi, wait! Achi shouted. But she didn't appear to hear his cries. The hopes of rescuing her sister had driven all else from her mind. Achi started to run after her. Hitomi had reached the vehicle already. She brought her face close to one of the windows, but the tinted glass obscured the view inside. Hitomi circled around to the minivan to her side. Achi saw her grasping at the door. She slipped out of his view for just a moment. Oh no! That's not good. So that's the van that explodes. was a thunderous explosion and a gout of flame tore the roof off the minivan like it was made of aluminum foil. Hitomi! Horrified, Achi charged through, whirling smoke, searching for Hitomi. He saw two figures sprawled on the street several meters from the van. Hitomi and Kanan. Hitomi, wake up! Achi cradled her in his arms and her eyes drifted open faintly. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Hitomi didn't appear to understand him. Her only response was a blank, dazed look. There was a small patch of red on her face. Achi rubbed it gently with her finger. He saw no further signs of bleeding. She must have been splattered by someone else's blood then. As far as he could tell, she hadn't been gravely injured. Achi let out a sigh of relief. Hitomi, is she alright? Kanan stood on the ground. Her clothes were scorched in places and she was bleeding from her head. Kanan, did you save her? Is she alright? Yeah, what about her sister? Kanan didn't respond. No, it can't be. Achi went to look inside the van. Amidst the smoke and the flames, he could make out the outline of a body. What happened here? Achi had to look away. Get Hitomi out of here. Hurry. If those guys show back up. Kanan's face twisted up with pain. Alright. Achi settled Hitomi carefully in his arms. Wait, I need to tell you something. Kanan's pain gasp called him back. Alphard. Huh? Alphard? That's the name of the mastermind. I'm sure it'll come up again if you keep pursuing this. If you value your life, don't get involved with Alphard any further. Now go. Alphard? Not Alfart, apparently. Okay, and thanks. Alphard. So our bad guy is named Alphard. That's interesting. Alphard. With Hitomi in his arms, Achi hurried from that scene. He wasn't sure where he was heading. He just wanted to get away wherever that went. He carried her past the crowd of onlookers that had swiftly begun to assemble. The flames of the burning van rose ever higher, roaring up toward the heavens. To be continued. Oh, wow! That's fast. Wrapping up Achi's story quick. So, did that change Kano's story? I guess? Maybe? Chasing the minivan? I don't know. I will be right back. Alright, I am back. Now. So that is going to jump. And that would jump to Maria, but Maria's ending is still not correct. He's got to keep out. So does this change this? Do we do the knick-knack shop? Let's head to a knick-knack shop. I don't recall seeing one near the Burning Hammer demo site. I also recall seeing a poster outside the place that read, "We buy computers at top prices." Yeah, got it. Damn, that guy had led him on a wild goose chase. That shop is surely where he was going to sell the laptop. Gulping a deep breath, he headed in that direction. There you are, Yonagishita. Norikawa burst in the shop on center guy, an accusing finger pointing squarely at the thief. Alright, so this is the same stuff. Yeah. Does anything change? So that fixed Achi's thing. But... oh wait. Yeah, is it they lit up? Oh, my angel! Whatever is my darling Miku doing here? Miku stood in the doorway on the verge of tears. Mr. Minorikawa, she began, then her voice choked up. Miku, what's the matter? Is something wrong? Miku drew in close to Minorikawa's side. Huh? Yanagishida's gaze started back and forth between Minorikawa and Miku. You two know each other? Sort of. More to the point. Is she the girl you said you were in love with? That's right, the one and only Miku. I have her entrance music set as my ringtone. Paying no heed to Yanagishida's excitement, Miku kept her eyes fixed on Minorikawa. I lost. To a girl who knows Aiki Jujutsu. I lost! She buried her face in Minorikawa's chest. Ah. Yanagishida let out a gasp. What's this about? What in the what is all this about? He seemed on the verge of panic. Mr. Minorikawa, I need to learn Aiki Jujutsu. I feel so ashamed. She buried her face even deeper into Minorikawa's chest. That's so unfair! With tears in his eyes, Yanagishida darted out the door. Minorikawa glared after the pathetic fellow as he scampered off. The guy sure knows how to take advantage of a bad situation. I'll give him that, he murmured. Anyhow, I'm just glad I got my partner back. Ordinarily, he'd be inclined to pursue Yanagishida and subject him to a tirade at the very least, but there was no time for that now. Yeah, otherwise we get blown up. He explained the situation to the shopkeeper, who flashed a sympathetic smile. Ah, is that so? Lucky for you, he screwed up then. Much as I'm happy to do business, I just can't buy a computer that doesn't come with its accessories. So you'd have bought it from him if he'd had the accessories? Of course! Stolen or not, it's all the same once I've sold it. The shopkeeper chuckled unapologetically. I suppose that's true. Minorikawa laughed along with him. Yeah, all the same. Like hell it is, he roared. The shopkeeper froze like a startled rabbit. I bet everything you have for sale here has been stolen, hasn't it? Don't be ridiculous. I'll warn you up front, there's no use hiding things from me. I've interviewed you after all. I know you. The shopkeeper was getting more and more flustered. Well, I mean, look, this is just between you and me, okay? Sometimes I go around gathering stuff people have lost, and I sell it here. But it's not stolen, just repurposed. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The shopkeeper smiled ingratiatingly. You moron! Minorikawa struck his finger in the man's face. Selling lost property is a serious crime, too. A potential violation of Article 254 of the Penal Code of Japan regarding embezzlement of lost property, which states, a person who has embezzled lost property, drift property, or any other property which belongs to another person and is in no one's possession shall be punished by imprisonment with work for not more than 1 year, a fine of not more than 100,000 yen, or a petty fine. It is? Well, I mean, I guess that's what I figured it might be. Sometimes, well, I'm not the police. I'm more into curiosity than legality. In fact, I find all this pretty fascinating. I mean, what sort of things have you gathered up for sale? Well, let me see. Like this, and that, and that, and that. The man pointed to various items on a shelf. And also this, and that, and that, and then that, and that, I guess. Minorikawa's eyes directed all over the shop. Everything the shopkeeper had pointed out had a hefty price tag. And you're actually able to sell things like this? Minorikawa asked. Sure, I can sell stuff. Earlier today, somebody bought a big necklace. I'd listed it for 40,000 yen, but I discounted it down to 30,000. And you can still make a profit even offering discounts? Oh, the necklace is the GPS, I bet. The necklace is the GPS. I bet it is. Sure, I mean, it was just something I found lying on the ground after all. Minorikawa looked back at him, and for a moment he laughed as well. Then his face turned hard. This is no laughing matter, he bellowed. You need to stop what you're doing here right away. Otherwise you're going to find out what it's like to get punished by my pen of justice. I'm so sorry, the shopkeeper bowed repeatedly. Minorikawa glared. The truth was that right now he was so busy he'd have to let this guy slide. Still, this whole asinine affair had eaten up a big chunk of time he didn't have to waste. He was going to have to finish up his copy back at the editing office. Laptop in hand, he left the shop. Only stopped short when a slight figure stepped out in front of him. Mr. Minorikawa! Miku stood there, barring his path. Please, introduce me to a dojo where I can learn Aki Jujutsu. I'm sorry, I really don't have time for this right now. Minorikawa tried to hurry onward, but she stubbornly refused to let him pass. You introduced me to that other dojo before, remember? I suppose so, now that you mention it. He tried to slip by her on the right hand, but she was quick to block him. You're the one who introduced me to the world of martial arts, Mr. Minorikawa. Well, yes. You know you're putting me in a bit of a bind here. Trying to slip by on her left was a no-go to. She could anticipate his every move. Please, just hear me out, Miku said. He was speaking through quiet sobs now. I can't stand to leave things like this. She looked Minorikawa right in the eye. This is for you. You can find something to do with yourself. Is it martial arts? Sure. This is a good opportunity for you. You can find something to do with yourself that isn't martial arts. What? You were the champion at that one pub, right? Maybe now that you're done with that, you should find a more girlish line of work instead. Miku began to tremble. You jerk! Miku delivered a blindingly fast slap to Minorikawa's cheek. Why'd you have to put it like that? You're so mean! Bursting into tears, Miku ran off. Hey, Miku! She gave no sign she'd heard him and didn't turn around. Minorikawa rubbed his cheek and stung. For once, he actually regretted what he'd said. Maybe he shouldn't have assumed she'd be willing to just give up her hobby. He did, in fact, know of several Aikido Jujutsu dojos. If only he'd had the time, he could have introduced her easily enough. Checking his watch, he saw that he only had 30 minutes and change until 4 o'clock. There was no more wiggle room at this point. These articles needed to get written, and fast. He needed to get back to the editing department. And yet... Damn it, all the hell, I can't get work done like this. Minorikawa broke into a run. But he didn't run for Heaven Publishing. Instead, he went after Miku. Oh, keep out. Okay. So, he's running. So that's Achi's jump. Yeah. That guy, yeah. Hitomi, wait. As he ran along Koen-dori after Miku, Minorikawa heard someone shout out a familiar name. Hitomi. It's a pretty common name. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have given it a second thought, but he remembered that one of the Miss Midoriyama winners was named Hitomi Osawa. That made him curious. Uh-oh, the explosion. A moment later, he heard a cell phone ringtone. He immediately recognized it as an Ayakamiki song. His reporter's instincts tingled. He stopped to take a look around, and one young woman caught his eye almost immediately. He couldn't assume that any pretty girl he saw was Miss Midoriyama. After all, he'd be a little too convenient if he just so happened to run into her now. Still, it didn't cost him anything to ask. Are you Hitomi Osawa? He might as well at least check. But to his own surprise, he hesitated in embarrassment. He'd never been too embarrassed to ask a question before. He didn't get a chance to contemplate that realization. A massive, fiery blast knocked him from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. Behind him, there was a minivan fiercely ablaze. Minivan. Explosion. The first thing to pop into his mind was the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumigaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan exploded outside an MPD station. Afterward, a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. In the end, no one had been harmed. But there were rumors that the government had paid a terrorist organization a hefty sum to keep it that way. Right now, Minorikawa was a stone's throw from the Shibuya precinct. Could this be a repeat of the Kasumigaseki attack? The entire area was in an uproar. People were running around in panic. Minoru could see several injured people lying on the ground unmoving. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, numerous onlookers were casually taking photos with their cell phones. Minoru got to his feet and went to try to get everyone away from the scene of the explosion. Hey, you guys, get back! There could be another bomb. Minoru looked around as he pushed back the crowd. He was getting the strong whiff of a scoop. He needed to write his copy ASAP, but he couldn't just turn his back on this situation now. Two young men were strolling toward the burning vehicle. They had the look of juvenile delinquents. Oh, what the heck? Is this for real? Ain't this dangerous? Like, for serious? The pair tried to find an optimal vantage point. Hey, Minoru snapped. Don't get any closer. He spread his arms wide to hold them back. The young man came to a halt, but otherwise paid no heed. Oh, this is bad. This is for real bad. Think this is a terrorist thing? Yo, get out your phone. Come on. You think that this is a terrorist thing? Dude, shut up. Just hurry up and call Susumu. The taller of the two, dressed in red, was ordering around his blue-clad companion. Huh? The boy in blue huffed. Man, do it yourself. Say what now? Bitch, this ain't no time to get yourself all worked up. Minoru stood there, arms still held wide, getting more and more annoyed at their back and forth. Yo, just make the call, man. The young man in red scowled. He wasn't going to back down. Huh? Yo? What difference does it make if I do it or you do it? It doesn't make any difference, so it don't matter if you do it. Yeah, right, it don't matter. So in that case, you do it. I'm telling you to just make the damn call. I'm telling you to just make it your damn self. Oh, enough of this already. Minoru opened his mouth to tell them off. But then the young man in red spoke again. Dude, the goods from over at Endo Electronics are gone. You gotta let Susumu know. The name Endo Electronics caught Minoru's attention. Huh? Yeah, but that ain't all that Achiju's fault for getting all huffy at us. I mean, it was Kiryu who told us to go find the Endo storehouse. Yeah, but Susumu don't like dealing in stolen goods, since it dirties the SOS name. But what a coincidence. Look at these two were SOS members. Hey, Minoru called out. You two. He finally succeeded in getting their attention. Where is this Susumu fellow? I'd like to talk to him. He had no idea who Susumu was, having only heard the name just now. Still, from the way those two were talking, it seemed clear he had some position of leadership. You think I'd tell you if I knew? The fellow in red snarled. Minoru kept his composure. Listen, you guys know the Tenryugumi? The Tenryugumi was a Yakuza syndicate that operated in Shibuya. An up-and-coming Yakuza syndicate that turned up on the scene 10 years ago, with the seemingly legitimate Takarada financing as its business front. The group offers monetary solutions for people in financial trouble, but those who accept their offers soon find that their troubles only grow and grow. Embroiled in conflict with the Kanto Shiramine Gumi, who have been long established in Shibuya. These street kids were sure to be familiar with the name, if nothing else. I may not look it, but I'm in pretty tight with the Tenryugumi, and maybe you two don't know it, but Susumu's been showing up at their office a lot lately. Susumu's been dealing with the Yakuza? Well, for real? Sweet! The two punks bought it completely. What's SOS using as their hangout these days? I got a little something to discuss with Susumu. Right now it's this bar called Inferno. Minoru made a mental note of the name. Right, and Inferno is where exactly? The two young men suddenly looked distinctly uncomfortable. Uh-oh. Later. Yeah, I got a thing I gotta do too. Backing away, they took off through the crowd. Hey, wait up! I need to know where Inferno is. But the pair had already vanished. Ambulances began arriving at the scene and paramedics rushed out to tend to the wounded. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? Minoru turned to see a man in a suit approaching him, flashing his badge. Oh, the paths are converging, aren't they? So, a detective with questions for him, huh? How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? I still don't know many details. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident, Minoru exclaimed. Huh? The detective looked pretty flummoxed. I've been around the block a few times, and I know all of your police PR lingo. And when you start talking about it, the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Brushing aside Minoru remark, the detective tried another question. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Minorukawa thought back to the moments before the minivan pulled up. Now that you mention it, I don't think I heard a cell phone ringtone. I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. The detective tilted his head. A ringtone? No, never mind. Forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all of that. Minorukawa struck the thought from his own mind as he said it. In all likelihood, he associated the ringtone and the explosion simply because one had happened right before the other. Kano. A large-statured Caucasian man had called out to the detective. Evidently, the detective's name was Kano. Thank you for your cooperation, he said with a bow. Then he ran over to the foreigner. Mr. Minorukawa. Minorukawa turned at a female voice behind him. He found Miku standing there. She looked like she'd been crying. Miku, about earlier. He trailed off, searching for an apology. It's okay. That doesn't matter right now. Miku looked around the scene. Minorukawa followed her gaze. Something big went down here, he said. I know, she exclaimed. The explosion. I saw it happen with my own eyes. You what? Miku looked around nervously. Are you alright? He asked her. You're not hurt, are you? I'm okay. My ears are still ringing a bit, is all. Good. So what did you see at the time of the explosion? Miku assumed a thoughtful expression. There was this girl who was running toward the minivan. And then I think I saw this other Middle Eastern girl suddenly make a dive for her. And then the van just exploded. Wait, hold on, Minorukawa said. So I'm getting this right. It sounds like this Middle Eastern girl saved the girl who was running up to the van. Miku nodded. Just then, Minorukawa's phone chimed. He'd received an email. It was from Chiaki. Mr. Mino, are you still working on your copy? He checked his watch. At this point, the 4 o'clock deadline was barely 20 minutes away. Nonetheless, he decided to stay at the bomb scene. He could definitely smell a scoop here, and he was sure of it. Even if he couldn't get his 6 pages done by 4, landing a major scoop should be enough to persuade the loan company. Minorukawa jotted his phone down, and number down, and handed it to Miku. I'll make things up to you, he said. Give me a call later. Miku took the scrap of paper, puzzled. If you're looking for an Aikido Jiu-Jitsu dojo, I know a few. At that, her face lit up. Minorukawa decided to process the scene for clues. As he wandered around, he caught sight of Detective Kano and his Caucasian colleague heading down an alley. What's that I smell? Something pretty damn fishy. If they were slipping away for a private conversation, maybe there was some way he could listen in. Minorukawa hurried into one of the buildings that bordered the alley. He looked around and found a public bathroom upstairs on the alley side of the building. Hoping beyond hope, he slipped up to the bathroom window. Voices outside. He held his breath and listened. Those international criminals you mentioned. Kano's words were faint, but he could make them out. Minorukawa did a little fist bump. Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago. They infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. Oh! Uh-oh. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on, by UA you mean... Oh! The discussion involved some terms Minorukawa wasn't familiar with. He focused all of his mental energy on what the two were saying. This is a killer virus, the 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. 100%! Minorukawa muttered to himself. The shock caused him to unclench the fist he didn't realize he'd made. This wasn't just an interesting conversation. It was monumental. It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus through the city. It's capable of airborne transmission if we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms. Yes, everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Minorukawa felt goosebumps rise all over his body. If they were talking about a virus and a Kenji Osawa, they could only mean that Kenji Osawa. He recalled what Osawa had said earlier about the power balance of the world being at stake. There was no doubt about it. This was a tremendous scoop. Well then, we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible. Just calm down, there's more to the story than... it's starting to leak out! The door swung open loudly and someone came barging into the bathroom. It was Yanagishita. Why him again? Why here of all places? Oh, I'm leaking here! Yanagishita was on the verge of hysterics. His voice must have been audible outside. Kano and his companion went to take their discussion elsewhere. They've just been getting to the good part. You son of a bitch! Enraged, Minoru grabbed Yanagishita and tossed him to the floor. I'm leaking! Shut your mouth! He put all of his strength into an ankle hold and gave it a good twist. Ankle hold is a professional wrestling technique that involves grabbing the opponent by the ankle. Being caught up like this can be extremely painful. It also puts a lot of pressure on the lower body, and if you're already fighting the urge to urinate, well... Ah! Yanagishita wailed. Ah! Minoru left the idiot blubbering in the bathroom and hurried out of the building. He hadn't heard the whole discussion, but he had a scoop on his hands anyway. This would be a tremendous score for Heaven Publishing, enough to let the company rebuild. He was certain of it. And if I'm the one saying it, it's gotta be true. As he ran along, Minoru tried to plan his next steps. First, he had to get back to the editing office. He'd explain the situation to the people from the loan company. Then he'd go find that paperwork for Osawa and have Chiaki check his copy. And then after that, okay, still had a lot of things he needed to do. He sweated himself from both cheeks to get himself psyched up. His phone rang. It was Chiaki. Mr. Mino, something terrible has happened. Chiaki's voice was a broken yell. Whoa, calm down. Over in Koendori, this minivan exploded. Yeah, I'm well aware. Thanks to that, I've got a big scoop. Chiaki got him off. Just now, I got a call from Mr. Toyama's daughter, Hana. This time, Minoru waited for her to finish. She had a sinking feeling. She said that Mr. Toyama was in there. It was a suicide. Minoru knees buckled. Tell me you're joking. No, I mean, the van explosion is all over the news, and Hana was in tears on the phone, and... Mr. Mino? Mr. Mino, are you still there? Toyama had killed himself. Minoru felt the energy drain from his body. Okay. Oh, to be continued. Here I was thinking that was a bad end or something. Okay. So did we... Whoa, we really changed some stuff with Maria, I guess, too. So Achi's done and Minoru is done. And Osawa's maybe almost done. So we have Maria and Kano to do then. So let's get back to the chasing the minivan story and see if anything changes. Something's wrong. That's no ordinary city noise. Yeah. Column of black smoke rose up from between you two nearby buildings. Passengers stopped and gasped in alarm. Here we go. Got a keep out again. Okay? So how do we unlock the keep out? If I don't... Oh, there we go. Man in a business suit. That's how we do it. Okay. Man in a suit. There we go. That'll unlock Kano. Perfect. This hour seems kind of short, honestly. Several people were on the ground nearby, evidently injured by the explosion. A girl in a hoodie was crouched among them, doing her best to tend their injuries. This is Miku Morita. While walking along, upset at Minoru for not introducing her to an Aikijutsu dojo, she happened across the aftermath of the minivan explosion. Unable to stand idly by when faced with such a horrific scene, she pitched in as best as she could to help the wounded. Kano recognized her as the girl he talked to earlier during the traffic jam. Police, he announced. Get back, let me handle this. The girl was visibly relieved. Help her, she said. She pointed to a figure lying on the sidewalk a short distance from the burning minivan. It was a Middle Eastern girl. She appeared to be unconscious. I think she got hurt rescuing another girl, about college age, the girl in the hoodie said. A college-aged girl. That might be Hitomi. What happened to the girl she saved? Kano asked. The Good Samaritan looked around. Huh? Where'd she go? The rescuee had disappeared. This girl here. The girl in the hoodie gestured toward the fallen girl. I can't believe how fast she was. She spoke with a hint of awe. The way she moved to get to that other girl. She was on a level way beyond mine. Kano took another look at the injured girl. Her figure looked rather delicate. It was hard to believe she was capable of great feats of athleticism. He started towards her, but Stanley stepped ahead of him. Leave this one to me, he said. His expression was unusually stern, even for him. Do you know her? Kano asked. The American didn't answer as he checked the girl's pulse and then her pupils. Hey, Stanley. Don't you have other things you should be doing? Stanley snapped. Fine then. Kano decided to collect some eyewitness accounts. Patrol cars and ambulances arrived at the scene in a steady stream. Once the vehicle fire was under control, things gradually began to calm down. Several officers worked to cover the area around the burned minivan with a blue tarp. Kano got his questioning underway, starting by flashing his badge at a man near the front of the crowd. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? The man puffed himself up. How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? Still don't know many details, Kano admitted. The man shoved his finger in Kano's face. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident. Huh? Yeah, this is the same conversation as last time. I've been around the block a few times, and I know all your police PR lingo. And when you start talking about the details, that's 100% indicative of a major incident. I sure picked the wrong guy to try and talk to. Stifling his frustration, Kano continued his questioning. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Oh, you mentioned it. I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. A ringtone? No, never mind. Forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all that. Oh yeah, we got that. Note down in his pad. Kano. It was Stanley. Perfect timing. Thank you for your cooperation, Kano told the man, and he hurried him on his way. Stanley stepped in close enough to whisper. Who was that guy? An eyewitness to the explosion, apparently. Do you have any info? He said he heard a cell phone ringtone at the same time of the explosion. Not sure if that's significant, though. Stanley stood silently for a moment, thinking. What about that girl? Kano asked. Has she woken up? No. I'm going to drive her to the hospital. Huh? Why do that yourself? Just look around, Stanley said. He cast his eyes out over the scene. There were still many injured people lying on the roadside. It seemed that the authorities hadn't sent enough ambulances. But isn't your car back at Mario Macho? Kano asked. Under the circumstances, I think it makes sense for me to go back for it, Stanley replied coolly. Besides, I have a few things I'd like to ask her. Kano was curious. You do? He asked. What was the previous thing? Stanley's cell rang. Yes, Stanley answered the phone in English. As he listened, his demeanor changed. The blood drained from his face, and his hand began to tremble slightly as he gripped the phone. Kano had never seen him this shaken up. You got it, Stanley said at last. He hung up the phone and let out a sigh. What is it? Kano asked. Stanley headed into an alley without responding. Kano hurried after him. Once they were out of earshot of the crowd, Stanley finally spoke. That call right now was from Gordon, my superior. Gordon? Isn't Gordon the FBI guy from Twin Peaks? David Lynch's character? He broke off there and for a long while was silent. He appeared to be struggling with some strong emotion. What is it? If you're going to tell me something, then tell me. What is it? If you're going to tell me something, then tell me. Alright. Stanley said at last. I can trust you with this. Wow. Never thought I'd hear you say you could trust me, Kano teased. But Stanley's expression remained dead serious. We were contacted on our end by the mastermind of this plot. Those international criminals you mentioned? Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago. they infected Maria Osawa with the Uwa virus. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By Uwa, you mean... Kano thought back to his earlier conversation with Stanley. Those criminals are trying to get their hands on a new drug. An antiviral drug developed by Kenji Osawa that has been shown to be effective against the Uwa virus. Stanley hesitated before continuing. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. Kenji Osawa's antiviral is our only means of combating it. A mortality rate of 100%. It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus through the city. It's capable of airborne transmission. Following the onset of symptoms, individuals infected with the Uwa virus bleed from their lungs, and the virus is readily released into the air via coughing. The Uwa virus is highly resilient in the open air and can survive even after saliva or other fluids have evaporated. Certainly getting within 2 meters of a symptomatic person is said to carry a high risk of infection. Bodily fluids from deceased patients carry an especially high concentration of the virus, and anything contaminated with such fluids will be thoroughly sterilized before it's safe. Stanley nodded. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms, yes? Kano's voice was trembling now. Stanley spoke with complete certainty. Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Well, then we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible, Kano said, panicking. Stanley remained cool. Just calm down. There's more to the story than... Stanley was interrupted by a strange sound from the upper floors of a nearby building. Unsure of what it was, the two men hurriedly relocated. They paused when they came to a vacant lot. The place was deserted. No need to worry about being overheard here. You said there was more to the story? Kano prompted. The antiviral in question is stored in Kenji Osawa's laboratory. The lab is protected by a sophisticated security system, and apparently the storage area where the drug is kept requires fingerprint authentication from both Osawa and Tanaka. What? But Tanaka's... Kano couldn't help but gasp. Tanaka was currently a fugitive, the prime suspect in the kidnapping case. There was no chance of getting any fingerprint authorization from him at this stage. Is there any other way to get in? Kano asked. The door can also be unlocked via password in place of the fingerprint scanner. But we still need to choose what Tanaka... We need to know what Tanaka chose for his password. No. In any event, Stanley said, it's essential that we track down and secure Maria. But, he went on, his voice grave, even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is now in possession of the Uwa virus. If they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are in their hands. Kano felt a pulse of fear deep enough to give him vertigo. He slowly tilted his head back his head and gazed at the sky, vast and blue as always. There had to be tens of thousands of people in Shibuya right now. Rumi and Shizuo were among them, and they might all be dead within a day. It felt so unreal. Kano's mind almost couldn't process it. With an effort of will, he shook himself out of his daze. Now there was no time to waver. We have to try, he said. In the next 4 hours, we need to find Maria Osawa and figure out a way to stop this mastermind in the Uwa virus. The words were as much for himself as they were for his companion. Let's do this, Stanley. We might not always see eye to eye, but together I feel like you and I can find a way. But Stanley averted his gaze. My job here is simply to apprehend the mastermind. Kano felt a resurgence of his earlier anger at Stanley. Once again, he was putting his duties above human life. I'm sorry. Stanley's voice was a quiet mutter. We should get away from Shibuya as soon as possible, Kano. Kano hadn't imagined that the American would ever be worried for him. I appreciate the warning, he said, but I'm seeing this through to the end. This isn't the sort of thing you can solve with just an effort and willpower. Even so, giving up isn't the Japanese detective way. Stanley let out a nasal chuckle. Back to that again, are we? Same to you. Kano managed a tiny chuckle of his own. Listen, Stanley went on after a moment. This is just between you and me. The mastermind behind this kidnapping case is an arms dealer who goes by the name Alphard. An arms dealer? Beyond selling weapons, illegal arms dealers are also frequently involved in smuggling weapons unlawfully obtained through deals with government or military contracts. In recent years, such enterprises have become increasingly globalized. Some dealers form smuggling networks that also deal in money laundering, drug trafficking, and more. Alphard, the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Giseki, a hotel bombing in Chicago, Alphard had handled all of them. What do you know about this criminal? Kano asked. Stanley's expression grew even darker. Alphard's signature is extremely meticulous planning, but I don't mean meticulous in the same way you or I might normally think of it. Their plans are perfectly imperfect. Do you get what I mean? Kano shook his head. Alphard deliberately engineers accidents to make things complicated and unpredictable. It's difficult to get a good grasp of what's going on when the situation seems to be falling apart. People tend not to consider that coincidental mishaps might be anything but. In the end, they don't even realize they were playing right into the mastermind's hands all along. Kano could hear the intensity in Stanley's voice. I'm afraid that's all I can say. Stanley held out his right hand. See you around, Kano, if we're still alive. If we're still alive. Kano let that sink in for a moment. Nah, I'll shake your hand after we finish this case. With a slight smile, Stanley withdrew his hand. Then the two bumped fists instead. Alright, we'll meet again, Kano. I'm sure of it. Yeah, see you then. No sooner had Stanley departed than Kuze's voice came in over the wireless. Attention all units! As of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. The director's voice sounded strangely cold. I repeat, as of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. Wait, hold on. Sir? Kano shouted. What is it, Kano? Could you let us know why? We've received information that Maria Osawa has been infected with an unknown virus. It has been released somewhere in Shibuya. It matched up with what Stanley had said earlier. An anti-bioterrorism security force will be deployed in Shibuya. Terrorism involving biological agents, such as bacteria or viruses. Biological weapons are easier to acquire and transport than nuclear weapons, and because they rely on an organism's natural ability to proliferate or infect, they can yield powerful results for low effort. For these reasons, recent years have seen widespread apprehension about the possibility that such weapons might be used by terrorists. In the event that a bioterrorist attack occurred in Japan, temporary quarantine and decontamination facilities will be set up in the area affected. This is no longer a simple kidnapping case. Our part in this is finished. No, it's not. We haven't managed to resolve anything. Kano, I assure you everyone else feels the same as you do. Kuze's voice had a cautionary tone. They're still performing the autopsy on the body found in the blue minivan that exploded. I'll let you know once we have a positive ID. Kuze out. Director! The line had already gone dead. Left at a loss, Kano gazed out at the cityscape. The sight of the bombed vehicle had calmed down briefly, but now that the news networks had begun reporting, the herd of onlookers was growing. There was also a sizable crowd gathered outside of a large home electronics store. Large LCD televisions on display were showing a press conference being held by the governor of Tokyo. Yeah. Kano might learn something new about the case. He decided to watch the broadcast. In close with the administration, we are keeping a close, careful eye on the situation as it develops. The governor's expression was solemn as he spoke. Once he finished his statement, the reporters bombarded him with questions. It seems similar to the bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Giseki 2 years ago. Is there any possible connection? What countermeasures do we have in the event that Shibuya is the target of bioterrorism? The governor was visibly disconcerted. If this does turn out to be a bioterrorist attack, we will establish emergency shelters with a large-scale quarantine station at Yoyogi Park. However, there are still many details that remain unknown. The politician was clearly struggling to maintain his composure. Can you comment on the rumors we're hearing that Shibuya might be blockaded off? Don't be ridiculous, the governor barked. What outlet are you with? Are you trying to start a panic when we don't even know all the details? Besides, it wouldn't even be possible to blockade the whole of Shibuya. The press conference continued. The governor and the reporters locked in a belligerent back and forth. Kano left the electronics store and headed for their cafe where Rumi and Shizuo were waiting. He had to tell them both to get far away from Shibuya. The Cafe Lautrec seemed quiet when Kano arrived. Shizuo was sitting alone. Kano scanned the establishment but didn't see Rumi anywhere. One of the staff greeted him. "Welcome. Just one, sir?" "No, I'm meeting someone, actually." "Of course, sir." The hostess smiled and then went on her way. Shizuo was glaring at him. Kano walked over to him and bowed deeply. "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm Shinya Kano." "You look like even more of a knuckle-dragger than I thought." Shizuo maintained his praising stare. Rumi had something she needed to do, so she stepped away for a while, he said after a long moment. Kano sat down across from him. There was a laptop computer open on the table. Right now the laptop is in sleep mode and there's nothing on the monitor. But just before Kano came in, Shizuo was browsing an internet forum. He takes his user handle from a nickname for the apples he grows on his own farm, which are pretty little things and nearly as sweet as honey. Wait, he's the Aya Kamiki fan for the over 40s. Isn't he? The waitress came by to take Kano's order, so he asked for an iced coffee. "What are you using the computer for?" Kano asked. "I'm on the internet." Shizuo's voice was low and gruff. "This cafe has an internet connection? May as well start with a little small talk." "So what?" Again, Shizuo glared at Kano. The words couldn't come. "No, actually, this is no time to be making idle chit-chat. If they got infected with the virus, Rumi and Shizuo might die. Look, please, you need to leave Shibuya right away." Shizuo's face contorted with confusion. "What are you talking about? Why?" Kano wasn't sure if he should tell the truth or not. He was strictly prohibited from discussing a case with anyone outside the department. As a former policeman himself, Shizuo ought to understand full well the secrecy an investigation required. But it wasn't like he'd just up and leave town without a good reason. "Please listen," Kano said. "It's very... should we tell him?" "Yeah, let's be honest. Listen, there's a risk of... What's that? What I mean is risk of... Shizuo pounded his fist on the table. "Spit it out!" Kano just couldn't say it. Didn't matter who he was talking to. He couldn't make himself leak the details of an ongoing investigation. Besides, there was no guarantee a bioterrorist attack would actually happen. If they could just find and secure Maria Osama before she went symptomatic. Does this have anything to do with the case you're working? Huh? You telling me to leave Shibuya? Does that have something to do with your case? Yes, Kano admitted. So why didn't you run off with Rumi then? Shizuo's tone was frank. Well, I mean, when Kano didn't have an answer handy, Shizuo let out a single heavy sigh. "Is your work important to you?" he asked. Kano hesitated. "Is it more important than Rumi?" "Well?" And again, Shizuo cut Kano off as he waffled over an answer. "Me? I used to put my work before my family. There was no question in my mind that combating society's ills and solving cases was worth any price. And because of that, I did some pretty reckless things." "Almost wound up dead, more than once." Shizuo paused, a forlorn look in his eyes. "My wife did nothing but worry about me. So much that I didn't even realize when she'd worried herself sick. I was so caught up in my work that I wasn't even there for her when she finally passed away. It was all so very absurd of me." The waitress came by and set Kano's iced coffee on the table. It sat there untouched until Shizuo looked at it pointedly. With a tiny nod, Kano brought the cup to his lips. The bittersweet liquid was a balm to his parched throat. "I told Rumi the same story," Shizuo continued. "But I didn't tell her how absurd it was. I told her that her father only did what he had to do." He took a sip from his glass of water. "Rumi, she's very much like her mother used to be. Their personalities are almost identical. And I don't want her to suffer the same way my wife did." Shizuo's fist clenched in his lap. "What was it that made you become a detective in the first place?" he asked. "Well, at first I got the job because I thought that would make Rumi happy. And then I guess also because I thought it would make you like me, sir." It was the truth, but Shizuo simply chuckled. If your goal is to get me to like you, you may as well give that up now. I'm sorry, sir, Kano said. I can't do that. Are you this stubborn around Rumi? Shizuo grumbled. I love your daughter, sir. I want to keep her safe to make her happy. And why is that? Whenever I think about her, I just feel so amazing. I'm sure that you or anyone can empathize with that. Everyone has someone that they want to protect who makes them feel that good. It's an admirable thing, wanting to be a detective and protect the happiness of the people. But that doesn't mean you need to ignore your own happiness in the process. What you say may be true, sir. Earlier today, my partner was stabbed, and today's his wife's birthday. Shizuo arched his brow. Is he going to make it? We're not sure yet. Last I knew he was in critical condition. This is why I keep saying that the life of a detective is... Shizuo's words trailed off into a lamenting murmur. Even so, Kano was unmoved. Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Never. What's that? Something that a senior detective I admire very much said. It's the... Oh, that the senior detective I admire very much said. It's the fundamental guiding principle I've stuck to as a detective. But I was wrong about the real meaning behind it. My partner was stabbed. There are people I want to rescue. So much has happened, and now I finally understand what those words mean. When you see someone in trouble, you help them. That's not something a good detective does. That's something a good person does. Kano took a good long look at Shizuo's face. He had surprised himself, finding the words to speak his feelings so clearly, and he wondered what effect it had on the older man. I'm sure that, from your perspective as my future father-in-law, my being a detective means that I'm putting my life on the line. But that's not entirely true. I can only be myself. This is the kind of person I am. I care about helping people. Even if I were a baker or a brewer or a bookseller, I'd still act the same way. You're being ridiculous. A baker and a detective don't assume anywhere near the same risks. I suppose that's true. Kano fussed with his hair sheepishly. Shizuo grumbled. I think I see what kind of man you are now. He sounded oddly defeated. Which is why now is no time to just futz around. Kano sat up straighter at Shizuo's weighty tone. A detective needs more than just passion. A detective can't solve all his problems with sheer determination alone. But at the same time, he needs more than just the ability to coldly assess a situation. He needs the conviction to stick to a case when it might otherwise seem prudent to give up. There was something new in Shizuo's expression now, and a gleam in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Kano almost felt like he was being sermonized to by a senior officer. You got that? You need a cool mind, but a fiery spirit. A detective without both of those is worth nothing. Do you mind if I write that down in my notebook here? Look, Shizuo said, sounding suddenly embarrassed. Aren't you in a hurry? Don't you have to get back to your case? Yes, and sir, please. I need you and your daughter to leave Shibuya right away. Yeah, I hear you. Kano conjured up Rumi's face in his mind. There was a chance he might never see her again. He forced the thought away as best as he could. By the way, if I may ask, Shizuo said, what was it about Rumi that made you fall in love with her? What? Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Was it her looks? No, it wasn't just that. Kano found himself tongue-tied again. I mean, she is pretty cute, even if this is my own daughter I'm talking about. Shizuo shocked him by grinning from ear to ear. Well, yes, she sure is, Kano replied, but it's more than just that. She's also very sweet and kind-hearted. She is, isn't she? Yeah, she really is. For the first time, Kano and Shizuo smiled at one another. You're a man who lets his emotions show on his face, Shizuo said. And for a detective, that's... Actually, it's not so bad. Thank you, sir, Kano said. He bowed to Shizuo as he stood up from his seat. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, huh? I like that. Wise words, indeed. Kano turned to look back, and then bowed deeply to Shizuo one last time. Wow. That's cool that they buried the hatchet there. Kano and Shizuo are all cool with each other now. The ability to coldly assess a situation. Kano knew what he needed to do. There was one thing that was nagging him, no matter how hard he thought about it. It still didn't add up. Why would Tatno let Al-Karawan go free? He needed to go get back to the precinct and get the truth from Al-Karawan firsthand. As he walked along, he considered what he did know about the facts of the case. Just what sort of plan did Alphard put into motion here? It seemed that Tanaka and Osawa held the keys to understanding it. There had been relay handoffs of the phony attaché case, a relay that Tanaka had been complicit in. Then there was Hitomi missing, carrying the antiviral. Osawa had confirmed that himself. Ah, so that'll open up Osawa's story. Kano was starting to form a vague picture of what Alphard was up to. If the mastermind's goal was to acquire the antiviral, then obtaining the cooperation of Osawa and Tanaka was vital to that plan. After all, their fingerprint verification was required to physically access the drug. In order to overcome that hurdle, Alphard had presumably managed to win over Tanaka somehow, and had then kidnapped Maria Osawa to provide leverage against her father. No doubt that was how they'd gotten Hitomi to take the antiviral with her to Hachiko. While the police were distracted by following the attaché case, Alphard would then take the antiviral from Hitomi. That was the general plan as far as Kano could surmise. Just then a call from Kuze came in over the wireless. We identified the body found inside the blown-up minivan. Kano's hand tingled as he gripped the wireless. Mamoru Tanaka, male, 40 years old, an employee of Okoshi Pharmaceutical. Positive ID was obtained from the subject's personal belongings. It's Tanaka? What? Kano gasped. If Tanaka was dead, it would now be almost impossible to access the antiviral drug in the laboratory. At this point, the only antiviral they had a chance of obtaining was whatever Hitomi was carrying. Kano thought back to what Stanley had said earlier. Even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is in possession of the Ua virus. If they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. Put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are in their hands. Yep. No. Chill ran down Kano's spine. If someone didn't release the Ua virus, there would be no way to stop it from spreading. If Alphard really was planning a bioterror attack, Shibuya would well and truly become a city of the dead. He couldn't help but feel that the whole department was playing right into Alphard's hands. Kano staggered, physically stricken by the realization of just how terrifying a foe they were up against. To be continued. I think we're going to get to the next hour here. We kind of blew through this one. So let's jump to Osawa's story, and then we'll get to the next hour. So yeah, this plot has thickened considerably, and I'm seeing where this everyone's kind of storylines are going to start intersecting here. Alright, here we go to Osawa. So this is finding out Tanaka's dead, I bet. Before the news she shared with the Osawas, the members of the investigation team quietly briefed Detective Kajiwara. Osawa and I sat on the sofa on the far side of the room watching. They could see Kajiwara go pale. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief several times. Bad news, Osawa thought. Mr. Osawa, ma'am? Kajiwara shuffled his way over to them at last. We've just gotten word from headquarters. Right now, the task force is in uproar after a change in direction from the higher-ups. The detectives who were on the scene have been ordered to discontinue the kidnapping investigation. He hesitated, ominously. Osawa braced himself. Please, let's hear it. It would seem that your daughter Maria is safe. What? Osawa felt an unexpected surge of relief. You mean it? The case has been solved? Added I. For a moment, they almost sounded like a happily married couple. It was only a stern look on Kajiwara's face that gave them pause. However, as of yet, we do not have her in custody. I'm not sure I understand, Osawa said. You know she's alive, but you don't have her. How? Deep furrows appeared at Kajiwara's forehead. I'm sorry, sir. The information we've received from up top is complicated. We've confirmed that she was able to escape confinement. It's just... The detective gave every appearance of holding something back. If there's something you need to tell us, then just say it, Osawa told him. It would seem that Maria has been infected with a virus. Infected? Osawa felt as if a taloned claw just clutched his heart. It's not one I've heard of before, but apparently it's called the Uwa virus. Osawa's vision went dark. He felt as if he'd been plunged into a black void of despair. Darling? I asked raspfully. She didn't need to put her fears into words. Osawa felt them as plainly in his own gut. You're an expert in virology, aren't you, Mr. Osawa? Kajiwara said. Are you familiar with this Uwa virus? Osawa held up a hand to forestall further questions. There was no time for that. How many hours ago was she infected? He demanded. I wasn't told that much. Is that important to know, sir? Depending on when Maria was infected, it may or may not still be. Osawa trailed off abruptly as the reality of the situation struck home. This wasn't the same as when Hitomi had been infected. Right now, there was no way of getting Tanaka's cooperation, which meant there was no way of accessing the antiviral storage. In other words, getting the cure to Maria would be impossible. Osawa's head swam. Detective Kajiwara, I beg of you, your people need to catch Tanaka as soon as possible. I can't share the details, but if you don't, something terrible is going to happen. Just then, Kajiwara's cell phone rang. He picked up quickly. What did you say? The detective's shout shattered the anxious silence that had fallen. My eyes shuddered visibly at the outburst. Kajiwara nodded sharply, still listening. More creases formed in his forehead. Understood. I'll let them know. He hung up. All eyes were on him. That was headquarters. Osawa swallowed a lump in his throat. He could feel himself quaking all over. A minivan we believe belonged to the syndicate exploded near Jinan in Shibuya. The body was found amongst the burning wreckage of the vehicle. Who was it? Osawa interjected. Tell me! Please don't let it be Maria. Please don't let it be Hitomi. Kajiwara took a deep breath before speaking. We've conclusively identified the remains as Mr. Tanaka's. No! The cry was visceral, almost bird-like. Osawa looked around in surprise. It was I. It's not true. You're lying. Her shell screams reverberated through the room. Osawa felt like he wanted to scream too. With Tanaka dead, there was no way to get to the antiviral. Which meant that Maria was going to die. To be continued. Oh boy. Wait. Oh! We gotta finish Maria's story too, right? I thought we had her to be continued. Am I wrong about that? I guess so. So, yeah. All I can do is stand and wait and mull over my own situation. Just who am I? I ask myself again and again. Oh yeah, and then this is... So Yanagishita is supposed to show up if we did all this right? Is what they said? Tama! I am... None of the above. None of the above. None of those fit me at all. I turn to the sound of an exuberant voice and see Mr. Yanagishita running my way, flailing his arm in a friendly greeting. I swear this guy could wind up banished to the pits of hell and still give it his all, day in and day out. Oh, thank goodness it is you, Tama, I knew it! The man with the cane grumbles something incoherent, then holsters his gun and flees the scene. Huh? Now you're with some middle-aged guy? You look so sweet and innocent, but I guess you kind of get around, huh? Boss, nice timing. I do a little fist bump. Whatever he's doing here, I'm glad he drove off that guy with the gun. What are you so happy about? Yanagishita gives me a puzzled look. But he's probably distracted by his own excitement. Well, anyway, never mind that, Tama. He shifts down to a conspiratorial whisper. You know, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I was in such a tizzy over some silly scratch card from a magazine. I can tell he has news he's itching to tell me. Did something happen? Well, he brings a hand to his mouth and giggles unsettlingly. I had a great little idea. Great way to strike it rich. I feel like I've heard this from you before. Mr. Yanagishita shakes his head fervently. This time it's different. We're talking way more digits than before. Now try not to be too surprised, yeah? Spittle flies from his mouth as he rattles on. It's okay to be surprised, actually. In fact, I'm guessing you're definitely going to be amazed this time, Tama. I can practically see the banknotes dancing in his eyes. Cut to the chase already. What is it you want to tell me? This time, get this. I got a line on 10 million yen. He thrusts his index finger skyward, grinning ear to ear. Surprised now? Yeah, you are. It doesn't require any capital. It's no risk, high return. In the world of equity investing, a wise investor weighs risk against the potential for return. Many heavily risky companies have yield little in the way of actual returns. Such cases are called high risk, yield low return. The inverse, low risk, high return is quite rare. The idea of no risk, high return is simply absurd. There's a crazy gleam in his eye. Oh man, I'm probably gonna be part of the Billionaires Club. This is so ridiculous I didn't even have a snappy retort for it. Never mind the 10 million. Obviously wouldn't make him a billionaire. By the way, you haven't seen Cheery, have you? I'm gonna need your help to wrap up this 10 million yen. Cheery? No? I haven't run into her since the sales demo. Oh darn. If you happen to see her, tell her to get in touch with me. Sure, alright. I still don't know what he's going on about, but there's probably no harm in being helpful. Thank you, Tama. Guess I may as well give you a little hint. A hint? Yeah, a hint. Wanna hear it? Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, then, I guess I've got no choice. When you put it that way, I just have to tell you. Mr. Yanagishita clears his throat and sees to claim. When the mighty stomach triumphs over the endless cavalcade of icebergs, the hero shall be blessed with fame and fortune. Huh? What the heck is that supposed to mean? He looks inordinately amused at my confusion. It's part of a legend. You only need to remember that one verse for now. You're going to bear witness to history. I feel like this guy is right out of some kind of story himself. Anyway, thanks for helping me out with the Cheery thing. Adios! Spanish for goodbye. The true meaning is closer to the English farewell. In day-to-day interactions, most Spanish speakers use the word ciao. Adios can carry the connotation that you do not expect to see the addressee again. And then, like a whirlwind, Mr. Yanagishita zooms away, leaving me alone in the alley. Phew. Suddenly, I feel totally exhausted. I let out a sigh and drop my eyes, and that's when I notice a notebook on the ground at my feet. Did the assassin drop this? I pick it up and look inside. There's a photograph tucked inside the back cover. It shows 3 young people, 2 boys and a girl. Is that Maria? It kind of looked like her. Well, what do I do now? Do I go to the police? How would I even explain the situation? I can see it now. There's this killer out there, and he's after this person named Hitomi Osawa. And then the police would be like, who is that? And who exactly is after her? And then what would I say? Heck, they might not even give me the time of day in the first place. Not only do I not have an idea who Hitomi Osawa is, I know nothing about the guy who's after her, except that he walks with a cane. I mean, I can't even tell her who I am. They'd probably shoo me away without a second thought. What am I supposed to do? I hang my head at a total loss. The necklace around my neck sways idly to and fro. That's the GPS, I'm sure. Oh, we gotta keep out. Okay, so we gotta bust that keep out. Yep, there it is. So did Tanaka get into the van and end up, like, blowing up or something? I don't get it. Was he trying to lure them to the van? Eventually, I muster up the energy to start walking around town, heading to nowhere in particular. The billboard outside of a department store displays a poster of some female musician. She must be pretty popular because lots of passers-by stop to take a good look. Am I just imagining things? I feel like I saw this same poster somewhere very recently. Standing underneath the sign is a woman talking on her cell phone. It sounds like she's having an argument with whoever's on the line. I don't want to be nosy, so I just pass on by. As I come into Koendori, I gradually come to a halt. I'm a little tired from all this aimless wandering around. I let my gaze stray along the streets as I consider my next move. Was that Aya Kamiki back there? Kinda looked like her. Then I catch sight of a blue minivan parked across the street. Oh! Suddenly my heart starts pounding. I know this. I know this minivan. If I head over to it, I'm sure I'll remember something. As if pulled by some huge magnet, I make my way toward the vehicle. And explosion. There's a sudden, thunderous boom. I'm knocked flat by a blast of energy, and the world goes all topsy-turvy. As I lie in shock, a wave of unfamiliar images fills my mind. A cloud of whirling dust in some place that isn't Japan. A simple room with unfamiliar architecture. Girl. And I know the girl's name. Her name is... On the verge of that revelation, my consciousness fades away. Bad end? A sudden blast. Well, wait a minute. Maria arrived on Koendori just in time to get caught in the minivan explosion. She's going to avoid this fate. She needs to stay away from that vehicle. Someone else's actions can assure that Hana Toyama crosses paths with her again. Then Maria will come to her and avoid... Oh! Okay, so we'll just make that... Okay, it's Achi's story. We need to change what he did with... Yeah, not run into the girl. We can just change that real quick. Lead to one side. Managed to avoid crashing into her, but the girl was still definitely shot. Sorry about that, Achi said. Are you alright? But the girl didn't answer, or even meet Achi's eye. She just looked around as if in a daze. Was she waiting on someone, maybe? Odd kid, Achi thought. I hope she's okay. Once more, Achi and Hitomi set up. Alright. And let's see, does that fix... Yep, that fixed her end. Let's make sure everybody else is on 2B. Yep, so here we go. Particular... My cat set a little Hana in front of the billboard. She's sewing something to a woman. There, some colorful sheets of paper. The woman looks a lot like the musician in the poster. Wherever. I have the feeling I've seen her someplace before. Where could I have seen her? Man, having amnesia is really a pain in the ass. I have no way of knowing whether I've forgotten something or had no memory of it in the first place. The woman looks through the papers Hana held out to her, nodding approvingly at each one, and I can hear her murmur with admiration. Hana! I wave as I scamper on over to her. As I do, the woman abruptly hurries off. Hey, we meet again, I say. Hana just gives me a bored look. Who was that just now, I ask. I don't know. Hana quickly gathers up her belongings and starts walking briskly away. Oh, hey, wait up! I call out. The girl ignores me. She's moving at a jog now, heading from Spanish Hill towards Koendori. She steps out into Koendori, she trips and falls down hard. The contents of her bag spills out into the road. Oh, whoops! Catching up to her, I gather up some of the fallen pages. What's this? There are poems written on the colored paper. Copies of a prose poem titled The False Monster. The poem delicately details the wavering emotions of an adolescent girl. Also, in a clever twist, if the text is read horizontally instead of vertically, it tells about a father's worries over his only daughter, who is now of marriageable age. Hana's genius will soon be discovered by Hayaka Miki, and she will go on to become the popular songwriter. A look of embarrassment crosses Hana's face, and she snatches the pages out of my hands. Don't touch those. Those are for sale. For sale? I'm selling poems that I wrote. Oh wow, that's incredible. She looks surprised by the compliment. Incredible? My friends at school said they were dumb. That's not true. I only saw a little just now, but I thought it was a really good poem. They're just saying that. I've been out here in Shibuya for weeks trying to sell these things, but the only person who's bought one was that lady just now. Hana lets out a mournful sigh. Well, what are you out here selling poems for anyway? I thought maybe it'd help pay back our debts. Huh? Okay, that's not something I expect to hear from a little kid. My dad's in real deep, she continues. The topic makes me think of you, Mr. Yanagishida. Yeah, it's like they keep running across the same Yakuza people. Guess today's my day for many people mired in debt. And I'm only in an elementary school, so I can't get a part-time job. Japan's Labor Standards Act prohibits the hiring of children under the age of 15. For certain jobs within the entertainment industry, however, employers can obtain permission from the Labor Standards Inspection Office for younger children to work. I'm impressed. She's so brave. She's maybe a little hard to approach, but she is just a kid after all. She's so brave. I just want to give her a little hug. Oh, Hana. I hear a strange wailing come from behind me. So I turn around to see Mr. Toyama standing there, tears streaming from his eyes. Hana, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were trying so hard to... Toyama rushes up to the girl. It's quite the emotional father-daughter reunion. Or at least that's how it looks until Hana slaps her father across the face with her bundle of papers. What was that for? Don't you give me that. I'm sick of all this running around. She delivers several more well-placed smacks with her little craft project. Okay, Toyama says at last. I know you're upset, but I have to ask you for just one thing. Then we can see about getting through the day, okay? Yeah? Okay, but just one. I can't help but find this honorary interaction kind of charming. You two get along really well, don't you? I say. Yep, no. The two give simultaneous contradictory replies. Then Hana suddenly starts to walk off, with Toyama tottering after her. It's such a weird little sight that I can't help but laugh. Well, later then. Uh-oh. Boom. There was a big explosion. So the van explosion is worthy of live action. It's nice. Is she gonna remember something now? Further along Koendori, I come across a car on the roadside that's spectacularly aflame. A group of onlookers surrounds it in a confused uproar. It seems almost unreal, like I'm looking at a set for a TV show or something. I stand there, staring into the flames. Huh? What's that? I can see something. The raging heat makes the air shimmer. The scent of dry sand fills my nose. A gust of searing wind tugs at my hair. Where am I? The Middle East. Decaying roads, decaying houses, a decaying city. And the people who live there. People who live. People who live. People who live. There's someone by my side. Someone is with me, watching all of this. It's a girl. The person with me is a girl, slightly younger than me. She says something to me. Anna is me. Cat's Cradle. That's my voice now. Cat's Cradle? Whose voice was that? What's going on? Who am I talking to? Yeah, Cat's Cradle. I'm showing someone how to do a cat's cradle with string. But who? Who am I showing how to do a cat's cradle? Cannon? The word Canaan echoes in my head. Canaan? I hear the name aloud. The images floating through my mind are beginning to break up and vanish. But I feel like, for a brief moment at least, I caught hold of the edges of some of my lost memories. That's right, Canaan. As soon as I say it, I'm filled with a powerful sense of duty. There's something I'm responsible for. Something that I needed to do. And if I don't, this Canaan person is going to be in grave danger. Calm down, just calm down. I'm pleading with myself now, fighting the impulse to take off running. If I did, where would I go? I have no idea what my destination or my goal even is. Please, please remember something. Please, please. I gaze out at the flames, practically praying now. Don't move. A voice is in my ear, and I feel something hard press against my back. I don't need to turn around to recognize whose voice it is. I thought you said you didn't have any business with... I did a little thinking, says the man with the cane slowly. About how I might lure out Hitomi Osawa, see? I'm going to use you as bait. Uh-oh. To be continued. We are officially into the next hour. Wow. Alright. 1600 to 1700. Alright, well that's a good stopping point. So we're going to end it there and we'll start back up again next Saturday night. See you then.